Hey everybody, welcome to episode 148 of the Collector's Quest podcast. It is 4 a.m. because that is the time it always is when I edit these 3-hour-long episodes. We've got a mailbag episode. This episode is so long, I don't even remember what the questions were about. We're talking bubbles. We're talking what the next big spike is. Johnny's complaining about graded game systems. It's 3 hours long. There's a bunch of stuff in it. So please enjoy the episode. I'm going to bed. Yes, I know there's a big gap in between us recording and editing it. Hopefully we'll get back on track soon. You know how it is. Let's go. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler here with Johnny and Stefan. What's going on, guys?
You know, hanging out. You know,
I'm enjoying the 6 followers that, or the 6 new listeners that I got this show this week.
What are the 6 new listeners you got for the show?
Oh, Johnny told me I got 6 listeners off of my post.
Yeah, he was like, so, did we see a big bump from my big Twitter post I did for the show?
Oh,
I was like, no, it was 6 people. He was like, oh.
Were you on a certain other podcast promoting us yet?
Yes, I was.
Where's the bump from that, Stefan?
Because it hasn't aired yet.
Okay. All right.
But yes.
I have faith in
One
you.
of those real video game podcasts are like, we might get a bump from that one. It's a podcast people actually listen to.
All right, so we're going to do a pivot, guys. The Collector's Quest podcast is just going to start talking about gameplay and video game history because apparently that's way more popular, and no one's doing that right now. So we're going to try to get those listeners and get paid.
You
for
guys,
this.
Also look forward to some reviews of modern games and retro games. You know, I feel like between the 3 of us, we have some really good things to say about Super Mario Brothers that I'm sure have never been said before, and you'll be super interested to hear our views on.
That's a pretty good joke, Johnny. But let's get right into our review of the Castlevania trilogy on NES. Now, these are some Nintendo hard platformers, guys, but they are absolute classics.
You know, another great game.
I'm sorry,
after we talk about Castlevania is the real hidden gem, Blaster Master. Don't know if you ever heard about this one, guys.
Wow, how about that Sunsoft music, Johnny? I could listen to it on my iPod all day.
Yeah. I mean, between that and that other rare gem, Bionic Commando, woo! And don't forget Mega Man 2.
I could sing the song to that. Oh no, I'm having a Dennis moment. I can't remember. Dennis moment.
Everybody
I made that joke just for Stefan's benefit because he's the only one who thinks that's hilarious.
Yeah, Dennis doesn't think it's very hilarious when I text him about it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you're texting him at like 3 a.m. out of the blue. You're like, sing the Mario theme. Do it.
Did you learn the Mario song yet, Dennis?
I think from now on, whenever he's asked, he should have to sing the Super Mario Brothers Super Show Lou Albano version.
Nice.
Captain Lou Albano.
Does he have to do the voice too?
He does. Swing your hips from side to side. Come on now. Yeah,
it's time to go do the Mario.
The Mario. Yeah, the whole thing. I love that they're like plumbers who live next to a pizza shop, but they're never doing any plumbing. And then, you know, just the whole idea of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show is amazing. Like that live action portion exists. Like they felt like they needed to do that rather than just make it an animation.
And there was also that segment with Koopa that apparently was regional. I think we got it out here, Johnny, but like, do you remember the segment between the segments of Koopa where he would it was him and a live audience of children and he would like give away Power Gloves and stuff?
No.
Yeah, I'm not making this up. It's a thing, but it was regional, so you didn't get it everywhere.
Well, I lived in Palmdale at the time, and I remember like always trying to figure out when it was on. I think it was on like 3 p.m. or something. And, you know, like Palmdale was not a great time for me or a great place. So like at that time, I was living in the apartment of the wife of a bank robber who had recently gone to jail. True story. And me and my parents were in one bedroom during this time. I think it was like 11, 12. And yeah, so we only had like one TV and like kind of had cable, but we had like still the antenna, so
Sure.
you're like trying to get channels the best you could. And then like I had to compete with two other people I was sharing a room with, being my parents, also for a TV. And it's no shock that they didn't always want to watch the Super Mario Brothers Super Show or let me
What?
try to find it with the rabbit ears for like, 10 minutes.
Did you have one of those TVs where you had to like stand in a certain position in front of it in order to get like the right reception?
Yeah, absolutely. There were many a times where I stood watching a whole show holding an antenna because I wanted to watch that show.
Yep.
So that's what dedication looks like. Until you've lived or shared an apartment with a bank robber's wife who just went to jail and held rabbit ears to watch Super Mario Brothers Super Show, you don't get to call yourself a real fan, okay?
Yeah. You're not a real gamer.
And,
Yeah,
and
you're not a
guys,
real gamer.
because
Get out of here.
we do bring up concepts on this show without explaining them. So an antenna, sometimes called an aerial, is this thing you used to have on your TV that brought in the channels.
They're like, oh, isn't that what those poor people use to try and get free HD channels now? You're like,
I wonder
no,
how many
this is
people, like-
before that.
I wonder how many like adult collectors now are like buying like CIB like 16-bit and 8-bit consoles and like literally have no idea what the like rabbit ears connections or like the coaxial connections or like the two I don't even know what they're called, the like the fork one where they had like the two prongs.
the
VHF,
forks,
UHF, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying words now.
I'm sure
No,
there's
it-
like
it
modern
was-
collectors now that
with
they're
it
like
had
buying
the
that
switch
stuff.
on it too. It's basically the Atari connector, but Nintendo had an adapter for that back in
Yeah.
the day. They even had one
I'm
for
sure-
the Super Nintendo.
I'm sure there's plenty of
Gross.
collectors who own those and have no idea what they're for.
Oh, I'm sure they've seen those, and they're like, "What is this strange box with these two wires that come off in a fork that have a coaxial connection at the bottom? What is this?"
Yeah.
It's funny because my brain knows exactly what that looks like and a couple different variants of it. Like I still remember because I had that for the Atari as well.
Yeah, the when I did the gameplay counselor panel in Portland, they were talking about how they'd have to describe that unit to parents, and then they would liken it to a pack of cigarettes, and that's how they would get their point across.
Cool. They're probably not recommended anymore.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, that's not something that they would do now.
So we've talked a long time. This is our traditional. What have we hit 10 minutes of digression yet?
No, it's 7:30. Usually we get about 8 minutes, so we're right on course.
Right on schedule. All right. I guess Tyler should tell them what the episode's about now. Tyler, what
This
are we
is
doing?
not my episode. These are always Stefan's episodes. I just want to clarify.
This is definitely a Stefan episode. Every
Nice.
time we do a mailbag episode, they are a Stefan episode because he loves them. I don't know why. Not that we don't want to talk to you, but I think I don't. Guys, I don't love the format of the mailbag episode. I think I would rather have a segment where we answer like one or two questions like every episode rather than do like a whole show of questions, but maybe like we can revisit that later.
I mean, it does work out pretty well for Reserved Investments, who does 4-part, like, just hit 2,000 subscriber mailbags, and then he gains 500 subscribers, and then he'll be like, 2,500 subscriber mailbags starting now. But no, I
see,
agree.
I
We should
think
probably just have a small section in the show. Also, I don't like calling them mailbags because it makes it sound like it's a filler episode because we had no ideas. So that's why
not
when
true,
they
'cause
go
we
up,
actually-
I just take like the 3 best questions and turn that into the episode title. So it makes it seem like we had an idea when we put the episode together.
Well, it's true. And like, especially for this episode, we had other ideas in front of this. And we actually have a whole sculpt of like 4 or 5 episodes, like the next 4 or 5. So, yeah, this is not in lieu of a good idea, which I agree that mailbag episodes look like sometimes. I like to do them because people like to ask us questions and we agree that we're going to do them, but I think we could facilitate a better way to do this.
And the I think it works out okay because the questions that we get aren't necessarily like, hey, remember like when you said that thing on that one episode, let's talk about that. Our questions generally tend to be a little bit more generalized or topical, like what's happening right now. So I know like when I'm listening to other podcasts that have like very, very like specific topic, like, oh, we're going to talk about this game. And then they'll do a mailbag like 6 months later and it'll be like, hey, do you remember when like we were talking about that game 6 months ago? Can I ask a question about that? that I don't know I don't know if that works quite as well, but
yeah, we don't suffer from that, at least.
yeah. But yeah, I do love mailbag episodes. I do love kind of connecting with our listeners, and I think this is one of the best ways that we can do that. And yeah, so I am always up for a mailbag episode.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I want to do that for the same reasons you just stated. I just think we could create like a segment that way we're more regularly touching base, and then if people did have questions like you described, like they wanted to ask a question about a specific episode, like we would get the audience on a schedule, like they know to submit questions, and then therefore we have some answers for them.
I mean, the section being part of the podcast would be reminder enough to submit questions to the podcast, and also it would make the second half of the show more like a half and less like 10 minutes of Johnny trying to end the show as fast as possible.
Well, but do we necessarily want that too? Because I know a lot of times, we get to our second quote unquote half, and it's like we've already been going for 2 hours.
But that's not going to happen this time, Stefan, because we're going to get right into it with our questions from the Quest Nation out there. Johnny, what's the first gem you pulled out of the hidden hat?
What? What?
Tyler just grabbed an idea and ran with it without consenting us.
Yeah, I love that we're Quest Nation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Actually, I like CQ Peeps better because like CQP, Collector's Quest podcast, CQ Peeps.
See, you have original ideas, Johnny. I just put nation in front of a word, and that becomes the
Vape Nation. Did you steal it from Vape Nation?
I have no idea where I stole it from. No, I probably stole it from C Nation, John Cena's fans.
Oh yeah,
I believe you did say that once. Yeah.
Anyways, so you guys get to hear, this is like kind of an insight into like when we do some episode planning, because we talk like this, and I sit there and wonder aloud how we can make the show better or worse, and then we get too busy to implement any of it. Hooray!
How can we make the show worse? Tyler, you should talk about PC games more.
Yeah, well, I mean, we always have time for PC games, right?
We haven't dedicated an episode to it. We're not going to dedicate an episode to it. I don't.
Well, I mean, maybe we could. Anyways,
I would actually sit back and listen to a So You Want to Collect PC as long as it was Tyler at the helm.
Actually, I'm okay with the So You Want to Collect PC if you rounded it up to like, so you want to be a generic basic bitch PC collector.
Wow.
Here's all the LucasArts games you should just go buy.
I mean, like that's what that episode would have to be, because when you collect PC, you're either collecting historically important games, like people go for the super early Sierra stuff that's just impossible. You're collecting your childhood, or you're being a basic bitch and you're just like, give me all the Apogee, all the id Software, all the LucasArts. And
and I actually think that episode would be fine. Just so you know, like,
so you want to be a basic bitch PC collector? Yeah,
well, and I do think there's like a significant chunk of people who just wouldn't have even exposure to even that popular stuff. Like, I'm sure there's tons of people who would love to hear about the good Origin games or the important Origin games. They wouldn't necessarily. That's not necessarily common knowledge, especially to like a console collecting base. So, I think there would be. I think even the more common information would still be good information.
We will have to flesh it out, because I feel like you could do a whole episode on like just Sierra games, and to try to just pick out the highlights of all of PC gaming would be incredibly difficult. It'll be like, so you want to collect Nintendo in one episode.
No, I think we could do like a basic primer though. Like we could do some basic primers for like what PC collecting looks like, and you could describe exactly on the 3 fronts you just described, and then talk through that for people. I think that would be interesting. And then like talk about some of the key titles in those arenas. And guys, when we say basic bitch, don't be offended by that, even though it's kind of offensive. We all want our Mario, Zeldas, and Metroids. That's fine. That's basic bitch collecting 101. And if you do that now and you get them sealed and graded, you're a fucking high roller. So, woo, yeah, just do it. Sealed Nation, get there. So yeah, just don't feel bad about that. That's like what most of us come back into collecting doing with nostalgia. You're just like,
Johnny, it sounds like you're being a fucking elitist right now.
Am I?
And you're telling the entire CQ Peep Nation that
CQ
whatever
peeps,
they're going to
CQ
interpret
peeps.
Whatever they're collecting is the basic bitch stuff, and that you hate them now.
I just said that's the reason we all do it, and that's fine. And that's what I did. Like the first games I went and bought, I wasn't like, what I need a little Samson in this collection immediately. I'm like, I want a Mario, a Zelda, and a Final Fantasy. let's do that. And that's like, that's what I went and did. Isn't that what everyone goes and does? Like, who are these people who are like, if I'm not starting with stadium events, I don't want to start with anything. Like, get out of here.
If I can't get a stadium event, I'm just not going to try.
I don't
Actually,
I think
bet
those
you there
people
are
started
definitely
collecting in the past 2 years, Johnny.
Oh, I know, but those people aren't people we're talking to. I'm talking about video game collectors, not investors.
Burn.
I mean, shots fired, I guess, but I mean that's reality.
It's not shots fired when it's your podcast.
Yeah, it's when people are like, if people are going to be offended to call themselves investors, then they should stop being investors. Like, just, get over yourself. It's fine if you want to go be like a video game investor and also a collector. You can be both of those things. Both of those things can be true. It's okay.
Just like you can be a dirty reseller and a collector. It does happen.
Yeah, well, now all those dirty resellers just kind of have to be investors at some level.
That's fair.
I mean, if they want to make money where the big video games are, I mean, why wouldn't they capitalize on the, biggest opportunity for them?
Totally.
Like, that's the other thing. I don't like shaming people for attempting to make money. I don't think that's right. So when people ask, like, do you hate all these resellers? And I'm like, I mean, that used to be the big thing. The war used to be people who played games versus collectors. Everyone's like, I fucking hate all you stupid collectors. You're buying up all the games and now they're not affordable and I just want to play them. Never mind that there are a million ways to play retro games and that it's the most intellectually dishonest argument I've heard in the last 10 years. Ignore all that. Those people are like, you're ruining this hobby. I'm like, well, we actually kind of had two different hobbies. You want to play video games. I want to collect them. But I want to play like on that original. It has to be that one or it's not good enough anymore. Get out of here. Shut up. Shut the f*** up. Go away. And now that argument is somehow shifted and the collectors are now the whiny ones. All these investors are ruining it. I just want to buy these games and sit them on my shelf and I want nice ones, but everybody's just buying the nice ones and grading them and I can't afford it. They're ruining the hobby. So
except for we're right when we say it.
Yeah, but somebody
is
right always ruining.
Say it, Stefan.
Yeah, look, they are ruining the hobby, but someone is always ruining the hobby or changing the hobby, right? So hobbies are like, this is just a shift, and you'll either accept the shift and go with it, or you won't, and you'll go on to something else. And, that hobbies grow and change, especially when money is involved. If you just want a pure hobby, just, go collect shiny rocks or sea glass, something you can do for free.
Johnny, someone out there, despite our limited audience, thinks that we're ruining the hobby somehow. Because, people give Pat the NES Punk and all these other, people who with any kind of voice whatsoever. So I really wonder how we are ruining the hobby. Right into the show. Please tell me how Collector's Quest is ruining the hobby so we can amp that up and really define our niche there.
I think we can all agree that it's Dennis Kahn who's ruining this hobby, right? I mean, are you with me?
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone is going to say Wada's ruining the hobby. And
So I messaged Dennis recently because I noticed that Blaster Master Boy Complete in Box is completely flat over the past 4 years, but the cartridge has gone from $10 to $65. And as a second I saw that, because I know Dennis is a Game Boy guy, I messaged Dennis. I'm like, Dennis, why did you do this? I know you control all the goddamn prices in this market. Why are you ruining the hobby? And he'll never hear that. So, he'll never hear me mention him on this show because he doesn't listen to us. Even though we went out of our way to mention his show on our podcast, and then I had to field 4 people who were like, what is this podcast? I can't find it.
Yeah, I can't find it. Me too. Absolutely. And then I sent him the YouTube link, and they're like, oh yeah, no wonder I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Well, I here's some advice for their podcast that maybe they can take. Consistency. Release an episode every week at the same... Oh, wait a minute. Never mind.
Hey,
that's a joke because we never do that. Not anymore.
It's a good joke.
Yeah, that's that's an insider joke for all you regular listeners who know. They're like, I hope this comes out on a Monday, maybe this week. Here it is. That's how Collector's Quest goes.
I mean, we did have a bunch of kids and life happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, and again, we're not paid to do this at all, but We will say there's news on that Patreon front. It's coming, and I'll just give a little teaser. Well, you do because we had this talk. Just remember, we don't want to say too much about it, but this is a campaign for you guys. Pogs for patrons. Just throwing it out there.
We did have this talk.
Just be ready for Pogs for patron.
I'm so excited that like I started like seeding the Pog thing as a joke, and like it's kind of got the claws into a couple people. No person more fervently though as Tyler. Tyler jumped on the Pog train.
Yeah.
Look, I'm willing to like any inside joke that we maintain on the show. I'm willing to, people come to us for those jokes. I'm willing to expand on that joke and make it funnier. So
I just want to mention that how deep I am into Pogs, that I am looking for something right now, and I haven't found it yet, so I'm not going to mention it on the show, but it has already caused me to look through the images of every single Pog listing on eBay, and there are hundreds or thousands of them.
I feel like my work here is done.
I want you to know,
I feel like I have accomplished what I set out to accomplish.
If
look, how come you're incepting me? We're supposed to get you collecting PS2. This doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you only have to go collect like 10 games for Pogs.
Oh, yeah. Right? I mean, like literally Pogs. Deal. Like once you start looking at what games are related to Pogs, it must have been like a 6-month period in history that Pogs actually mattered. But in my brain as a child, that seemed like an eternity, I guess.
And you were younger than us, so
6 months was a long time when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Pog thing is more generational for you than it is for me or for Stefan. So like Pogs hit you deeper in the feels than it does us.
Yeah, man.
Like I have one Pog.
Pogs, though.
I have one that was given to me. Like I probably have more in like my collection of junk I have in my garage, but I like have one that I used to carry around, and it's Mario from the movie, I think, and it just says "Trust the fungus." Because I thought that was funny. So I used to keep it in my wallet when I kept a wallet, but I haven't had a wallet in like 6 years. So
I guess hot tip, there's a Japanese equivalent to Pogs, and there's a bunch of Nintendo ones, and then like the Super Mario Brothers movie has a bunch of Pogs, I think, that I saw.
Yeah, well, and there's some pretty decent Pogs for that circle around Nintendo Power. They're like the Mega Man X Pogs are really, really cool. There's 3 different sets of 6, I think. And they did actually sell Pogs in the Nintendo Power catalog as well. So there's some pretty significant Nintendo Power Pogs.
I'm looking for are like such garbage compared to like the cool Nintendo Pogs you could probably get.
Here's how even Goosebumps had Pogs. Pogs were everywhere. Like, because I'm buying my wife Goosebumps stuff right now, like, there's a book of Goosebumps Pogs, and I was like, what is this? Not one book, but 2 books of Pogs, plus some that came in cereal. Cereal was like a big place for Pogs. Also, if you don't know, if you're like, what's a Pog? It sometimes is regionally called Pogs. Like, Pog was a specific company. You may know them as Milk Caps. Is another name for them. So.
Yep.
All right.
I hate to be the one, and I never thought I would be, to pull us away from the topic of Pogs.
But
we are at 24 minutes. So,
I mean, we're talking about stuff. I mean,
that's true.
It's a general episode, so I don't feel bad. Like, there isn't one thing that they're like, are they going to get to the topic soon?
So you're saying we should keep talking about Pogs for a while?
No, I'm definitely not saying that. I'm saying if we have any general, like, this is a general episode, so it's okay that we aren't exactly there.
Okay, one more thing on Pogs now. Speed Racer on NES, it comes with an order form for Pogs, and that's another set of Pogs that I've been looking for. But it's like I'm not gonna die if I don't own this because I don't care about Speed Racer at all. And I can't even find what the Pogs look like, and someone must have these. So if anyone has the Speed Racer Pogs you could order when you bought the game, can you post that on Instagram and tag me? Because that would be neat to see. All right, thanks for letting me have that little Speed Racer Pog call out.
Okay, so this episode, like they said, we'll get into it. We have some questions. We'll all kind of field them. But guys, if you don't know or don't care, or someone's already answered, because we did this last time, and like I feel like we just repeated what the other person said. Just say I agree with whomever, and then like let's move on from that one rather than repeating the same answer at people for like 40 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
It's Street Racer, not Speed Racer. I mean, let's go on to the questions.
All right. So, Tyler, let's start with all the questions you got.
We're cutting this. We're not going to let everyone know how unpopular I am as a Collector's Quest host.
No, Tyler got, if you keep this in, Tyler got run over by both Stefan and I posting it first. So all of our fans watch all of us. So, they're not going to double question.
Sometimes they do. But most.
Let's
see if someone double questioned you guys.
Johnny, are we cycling? Because I don't think I have any questions that are like specifically for anyone in particular. So I think those are all general.
Okay, so let's go ahead with your first question.
Sounds good, and I think this is a strong one to start on. So the question is, do you guys hit up flea markets for deals? And that's Pokazoid Collector. Now, I think I'll give a personal caveat here, guys, that we should also not really take the Rona into consideration because, of course, we're not at flea markets right now. I mean, I know there are some that are open.
I'm pretty sure Chris, another person who might have asked questions,
there's lots of people actually at this, yeah. So I don't know. So I think we should answer and say like. You can say whether in the current climate you're going to these things. I mean, I think I can blanket answer for myself. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything right now, like kind of period. So like until everything is good and you can have all of your political opinions and you can believe it's fake or whatever. I don't care. All I know is I'm like a fat dude with diabetes and and an infant son that I want to see grow up. So just in case, like, what am I losing out on? It really isn't freedom. People think it's freedom, and it's not. I'm fine. I'm also, despite this podcast, fine being an introvert, fine staying at home playing games, and hanging out with my wife and child. So I don't care. Like, I'm not condemning anyone for believing anything. I just don't care. That's just personally what I'm doing, and for that reason. So that's my blanket answer to: am I going anywhere or doing anything? Nope.
I mean, I want to be going out to my local game stores and just buying everything because prices are crazy and like new variants pop up that all of a sudden are worth 10 times what the other variant's worth. In terms of just going to flea markets, I think the last time I went to a flea market was probably 5 years ago, and I found a poor condition cart of Devilish on the Genesis and a completely empty Sega Genesis console box for $5, and that was it. I just like when I was going in the mid 2000s, like I would go and I would come back with like a suitcase full of video games that cost me nothing. And that obviously doesn't happen at all anymore now. And because I have the experience of going to flea markets 15 years ago, and it was like being a kid in a candy store compared to now, it just is so depressing every time I go to a flea market now.
Yeah, for me, I think for one, I don't think, in a general sense, unless I get incredibly lucky, that I will find much of what I'm currently focused on at a flea market. But even if I was, I think I've talked about this before, maybe even on a different mailbag, but I value an hour of my time so highly that I feel like unless I'm like pulling in chrono triggers out of baby clothes every 10 minutes, that I'm not really utilizing my time very well. And then as far as the current climate, similar to Johnny, I am not high risk, but I am a surviving parent, and I sort of refuse to orphan my daughter to the best of my ability. So even though I am not high risk, I am treating myself as if I am. So yeah, I generally don't. I'm not out there hitting the flea markets, but yeah, I think it becomes a question of how valuable you find personally a segment of your time, and whether or not you feel like you can do well enough at a flea market to kind of have it pay for itself.
Yeah. So the other thing about that, and this will incorporate some of what you do as well, Stefan. The area we live in, we get like kind of a lot of different little like video game pop-up conventions, so to speak, that happen in our area. We get like 3 or 4. So Stefan and I, when things are not coronavirus shutdowns, we go to those sometimes. But like Stefan said, we both value our time a lot. So I'm going there not specifically looking for deals or hoping I find something. I'm going to see people I know, people I like. There's a social aspect. Like usually Stefan and I go together. So it's like we get to hang out, walk around, talk, see other people we like and know. So it's part of our social scene to go do some of that. And there's also a place, Frank and Sons, where I'll go do the same thing. But usually I go as an event with, a friend like Stefan. I don't go for the hustle. I'm not there like, man, got to get them deals. Like, let's dig through them bins and like find some gold. That's not where I'm going. Like Stefan said, if I'm specifically looking for something, I'm just usually going to go to eBay because my time is more valuable than hoping one day I'll find it in the wild.
Yeah, and honestly, like I feel like flea markets are kind of like a young man's game, quote unquote, right? Where like I'm not hungry enough to be the guy out there at like 4 a.m. waiting for the estate sale to open, right? So like I am happy to then like have the young dude who does want to be like out there doing that. I'm happy to buy games from that guy, right? And like sleep in or like spend time with my daughter. It just that exchange of their time for my money is 100% worth it to me.
Yes, I mean, and that varies for me mostly. Like at different points in my life, and like you said, I've been hungrier and I've had less capital, less money in my pocket. So yep. If I wanted stuff, I had to go out there and I had to hustle. That's been my whole life. I hustled hard when I was younger, so I have to hustle less now. Made sure I made other life choices and knew I was missing out by like going to more school and like trying to get a better education rather than commit to those kinds of things. Not that, that's what everyone does. Some people I know who are highly educated just love that hustle. I don't love the hustle either. That's the other thing. I don't love that. That's not fun for me. So, that's stressful to me. I would rather just not.
To kind of piggyback off what you said about the hustle, like I feel like I put my hustle into like my social presence, and this is actually something that I've talked about on my my microcast about basically social strategies. Is that there's while putting yourself out there is a double-edged sword because it's you are having to spend the time and yes, people like know what you have, and if that makes you uncomfortable, then that's a thing. But in exchange for that, like people who have the things that I want know to come to me, and while that doesn't happen 100% of the time, it does happen more often than zero. So like that's another reason why I'm sort of demotivated to go hunting, quote unquote, because I know I've put my hustle and my effort and my blood, sweat, and tears into positioning myself in such a way that people are more likely to come to me with things, and that's a trade-off again that I'm just willing to. I'm happy to make.
Yeah, and Steph and I are just going to keep talking and leave Tyler over here on the left.
Hey.
But yeah, that's like one of the other things. My hustle now, like usually revolves around research. I want to learn about something, and then like when I like if I find a variant or something I want or something weird, I have that knowledge. So then I know about that thing, and then I can go get it. And that's the hustle, right? Like I've learned about a thing that most people don't know about. Now I can go exploit my knowledge and go grab a thing.
Yeah, and you're never going to find that at a flea market. That's the thing. Like, I got to set up a save search. Yeah. Maybe one will show up this year.
Right. So that's like more of where my hustle lives now. And it's because I really enjoy the research. That's what I'm saying. Some people love the hustle. They want to go out there. They love the rush of a deal. I don't love the rush of a deal. I love the rush of finding out something new. And which is kind of why there's a podcast. I like to find things out. I like to share my information with people. I like to try and teach people as well. So that's really and that's just like a personal choice. Again, not one's worse or better than the other. I'm not like, well, I'm over here collecting knowledge while you piss ants are down there in the dumps digging through baby clothes. I'm not smelling like diapers today, thank you. It's not true because I definitely am smelling like diapers because I have an infant son who shits nonstop. Seems like anyways. So yeah, I smell like baby cream all day.
And if you are, I mean, and certainly it's not saying that like, oh, like flea markets are dead or not worthwhile. It's just like it's depending on what you're out there for. Like if you do still love the hunt, if you are like crazy about, if you do enjoy getting out there and enjoy it for just the enjoyment of being out there, then great. Or if you are a collector that has sort of earlier in their quote unquote collecting career and
quest, if you will.
and it's a quest, if you will, yes. If it is more likely that you finding anything would be a benefit to you, then great, be out there. Like if hey, that like I didn't have a CIB copy of Jeopardy, then if that's like if you're there, then great. Then there's definitely people out there who could benefit from being in that in the flea market scene. It's just that I think the longer that you do it, and by do it I mean just being in this hobby, the less you need, right? And the less worth it feels to like be out there and then maybe finding commons or maybe finding nothing, right? And then you do get back into that like, well, how valuable do I find my time? So that's all I'm saying is that there's definitely a reason to be out there. It just depends on the person.
I don't know. It sounds like Stefan is saying that we don't need to go out to the flea markets because we on the Collector's Quest already have everything.
We have all the things you want. Suck it.
Top Hat Stefan here. Oh, I'm not out there collecting with you babies. I'm over here collecting artwork, and you won't find that at a flea market. No.
Oh man, but if someone did, that's all it would take. If like one person found like a piece of art at a flea market, I'd be out there.
Oh my God.
You could get him. Guys, make that lie happen. All right. Stefan, let's do your next one because I think it's a slam dunk easy one, and I'm sure Tyler will disagree. Is it Mario, like people on the East Coast who are wrong say, or Mario?
It is Mario, and people on the East Coast are wrong.
No, I grew up saying Mario, and I don't know why I changed it to Mario. I mean, I probably
because
changed it just because
you realized the error of your ways.
Yeah, but like my whole family, if they said it, they would all say Mario.
Yeah, incorrect. It's like people on the East Coast are like, they fight with me. They're like, it's Nevada. And I'm like, it's Nevada. No, it's Nevada.
We have no idea. Are you kidding me?
The
people who
there.
have like strong opinions on that have no idea what they're talking about.
I lived there. I lived in the populace. I know what we called the state I lived in. Give me a break.
But Mario is canonized. Like Nintendo says Mario. The end.
Yeah.
I don't understand like how it's a
like it's in the games. It's a me Mario.
Like,
so I don't.
Yeah.
It's a me Mario.
Mario calls himself Mario. That's like you bitches who call me Steven, even though I correct you. It's Stefan. If you continue knowingly to call me Steven, then you're just an ass.
I have Stefan PH friends and Steven PH friends, and literally every time I say your name, Stefan, it f***s me up because I have to try to think of which one you are.
Look, it's all about the
really,
EN or the AN.
The question, like, I don't know how people get that wrong. I'm wondering how they don't get, is it Stefan or Stefan? That's the real question.
Yeah, that's a more legitimate question.
That is a good question, John.
And usually I just say it depends on whether or not you're European.
Next question.
Yeah.
Which system is next to see its price going insane from the gaming file?
All of them.
I disagree that it's all of them. You think Game Boy Color is going to go insane?
It already did.
Yeah, so that's I think the question know. Is what is not already on fire, and what would be the very next
question.
thing to be?
Sega Pico.
No,
that is not on fire. Go buy it if you're still looking for a deal.
I mean, like, are we considering Wii to be on fire when I mean, relatively to its past, yes, $10 a game average is on fire.
Okay. But... No, okay, listen. Let's stop talking about prices and let's start talking about percentages. The Wii in March was at $7 on average per game. It is now at $11. Okay?
Wow.
That's a 50% jump in value on average of games. Is that on fire if a system...
but it's already on fire. Now they want us to speculate on the future on the Speculator's Quest.
Oh, so like things
What's the
stay
next
on
console
fire.
that will literally double, Johnny?
Like PS1 and PS2 are already doing it.
Honestly,
Xbox?
I think it's going to
No,
be whatever is there. If there's a system that WATA does not currently grade, when they begin to grade it, then they will go.
Let's say
it'll light
Turbo.
on fire.
Let's say Turbo. Like once they start grading Turbo games, then that shit is going to be disgusting.
That's honestly what I was going to say next as well. Like as soon as you start seeing Turbo games on Heritage, it's over.
Yep. So get into those Turbo games.
What are Intellivision prices at? Because like someone paid $5,000 for an Intellivision Donkey Kong. So Intellivision has probably the lowest bump of any console's coronavirus, but no one cares about Intellivision. I honestly don't know.
Odyssey 2, let's bump it up. Come on.
Like that's probably up there with Intellivision on the least exciting consoles during coronavirus.
Yeah, but as soon as WATA starts grading Turbo, you're gonna wish you could get your $3,500 cart only Magical Chase. It's gonna be ridiculous.
Yeah, so even Intellivision went from like on average. How are Intellivision games on average $44?
There must be something weird about that. I mean, right? That doesn't make any sense.
Anyways, it went from 44 to 52 according to them, which that seems crazy. Intellivision games are not $44.
I wonder if there's like a title that's just like
learning
skewing it like
fun.
crazy.
There's a bunch
huge
of titles
amount of $100 games. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. I don't know about Intellivision. So
I guess I don't know about Intellivision.
Did you know Congo Bongo was an expensive game? I love Congo Bongo.
It's weird because it puts like Utopia's price at like $12, and that's like a $5 sealed game that there's 10 million copies of. I don't know. I can't speculate. The next console to go crazy, honestly, is probably just NES. If everything is already out of control, then I'm just gonna pick NES to go even more out of control.
Yeah, I think everything is currently out of control, but I think if we're saying like what's the next thing to see like another big explosion, I think Stefan is right. Whatever WATA starts to grade when they release a new like K style, anything that fits in that K style is going to see the bump.
Yeah, and it'll be like an overnight explosion too. It'll be because everyone will buy up every fucking copy of everything they can find sealed of whatever that console is.
Yep. And then nice CIBs. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I think it's less about systems right now, and I think it's more about, like, nice CIBs are finally riding the high ticket. And there's been a lot of fishy sales going on that I don't know if they're real or bullshit sales, but, Tyler, what did Castlevania 2 go for? $2,000 or some nonsense the other day?
Complete in box. Because it's hard to find a complete in box of Castlevania 2, guys. So it's worth it to some people to not have to hunt for something like that.
Castlevania 2 is probably the hardest of the Castlevanias to find. No, get the out of it.
To be clear, like, these people are giving this argument a year from when a Contra sold for $2,000 sealed, and people were like, $2,000 sealed for a Contra, and now they're like, Castlevania 2 for $2,000 complete in box. No, it makes total sense. You guys have to understand this new market we're in, where complete in box Castlevania 2 can have this kind of value.
Yeah, so, again, WATA games, and then, like, we should, like, we'll get to the follow-up question. When's the crash? Is this the bubble? But that's not actually our next question. So, when is the So You Want to Collect NES episode coming? And that's from Dark Human 007.
Yeah. Hate to tell you this guy.
It's probably out of date.
I mean, look, whatever we said in that episode is probably still correct. Just times any of the values times 5.
That's true.
At least.
I'm trying to think of like what we talked about as being interesting in NES. I probably have to go back and listen to that episode because I do want to do a follow-up because we put out that episode and then probably less than a year later was last year. And then like now NES is all about condition and variance in terms of prices. And we probably were like, you should hunt for uncommon stuff. Pick up a Snow Bros. Pick up a Chip and Dale 2. Those are going to be the cool games that collectors want.
Before we continue talking about this, we didn't give a non-snarky answer to this question. We already did a So You Want to Collect NES. Does anyone have the episode number off the top of their head?
No.
Off the top of my head? What do you think I am?
I don't know.
Our editor?
When I say off the top of my head, I really mean, did anyone
look it up
before the episode, and then now I'm going to let you look smart. But
It's probably in the hundreds somewhere, probably around I'm going to say 117 to like 125.
All right. So
That's
yeah,
my guess.
I just wanted to put out the non-snarky answer of we already put one out. You can go look for it.
Yeah, it's in the last 2 years that episode has come out. So please do check it out. Tyler, I don't know, like we probably did mention those, but I thought we were kind of already at the point then where we started saying, condition is going to matter. So start looking for the best condition stuff you can find. Because I think we'd already said, we said a lot about there's no hidden gems. Like, the system is very well explored. People know about it. So I think we had a part where we talked about condition being king, specifically for NES.
Tyler, since you're editing this, you should just put that entire podcast in right here.
Yeah. So here's the So You Want to Collect NES episode. We'll see you in 2 hours when we get back to the mailbag.
And then someone's going to listen to the whole thing, and they're going to be like, everyone talks about these hang tabs. They didn't say the word hang tab in that entire episode.
Yeah, we probably didn't.
Right?
I'm sure we were definitely not as variant heavy as we would be if we did it today.
It is an episode that warrants like a 45 to 30 minute, like, hey, here's an update to that episode,
I still think we need a part 2. I've literally had notes for part 2 since we recorded that episode, and all of my notes are just like, it's all these things I thought would be interesting, and we just have to scrap the whole thing and do it over now.
So is it a part 2 or is it Rev A?
Stop it. Stop. Rev A does not mean revision. Well, it does, but doesn't mean this is code update. Everyone, cut it out.
Right, so
Pat the NES punk just made this error. I probably brought it up the last episode. Oh, man.
We should do the gloss sticker seal version of the podcast.
Yeah, that was the Matt episode. Here's the gloss sticker seal episode. So make sure.
If we're really being serious about it, that was the Famicom episode, and now we'll be doing the NES episode, guys.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the long answer to that very short question.
Tyler, cut that answer.
Do you think conventions like PGRE will return next year? If so, what will they look like? That's by Cecil Ridge.
Reg.
I know him and I talk to him, but I always just think Cecil. And now I'm like, there's an R there. I always call them Cecil Edge in my brain, and now I'm seeing an R.
It's like Soul Edge, but with Cecil's.
Yep. So, Stefan, this was your question. You want to?
Sure. I think conventions are already starting to come back in like a digital form. I mean, just this weekend there was Uplink, which was the Long Island Retro. Is it just Long Island Retro? Is that the name?
Long Island Retro Gaming Expo, I think.
Yeah. So like I've heard nothing but good things about that physical expo, and like the talent that I know that was like part of this show this weekend was all like, yeah, I heard the like regular show was great, so I'm going to give this a shot. So I think a lot of shows are already trying to figure it out, even like more general nerd conventions. I think specifically, like I've found like conventions. Like comic conventions or just like pop culture conventions, sort of getting on that train earlier than we did with like trying to do an all digital show. But so I do think that we will definitely see a larger presence. I don't know that we're going to find an actual physical convention. And I think that the people are just scared to be the first ones. I think the first show is probably going to take it on the chin, unless it's in a scenario where like the government has come out and been like, oh yeah, everything is great and we have a vaccine and everyone's herd immunity is here, and like, we would have to be really, really assured for that first convention to do really well. So I think it's a scenario where nobody wants to be the first guys out of the gate to take it on the chin.
I mean, we're going to get political rallies and more conventions as we ramp up to election time. So that's going to happen, and we're going to see how it goes. And I think a lot of that will define how we go. And like you said, if we get a vaccine, I also want to just say, remember when I was like, guys, I think we should have like a digital video game convention. I was telling you guys about that back in April, and you told me it was a stupid idea and no one would do that. Both you and Tyler said it was stupid.
Yeah, because it sounds like a lot of work that I don't want to do in addition to all the other work I already put into my hobbies.
I'm just saying, you guys said it was stupid and it would never happen. And here we are. So there. I was right. You were wrong.
I was wrong.
Yes,
I don't want to put in the work to a virtual convention.
All right. Another question by Cecil. You want to take that, Stefan? You want to read it off?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this one I was actually going to try to point at Tyler, because Tyler, I always feel like is like on the speculation nation edge. But this is another question from Cecil, and it's I'm considering purchasing a loose copy of Little Samson. Should I buy one now or should I wait?
I have no idea, man. So to give a price history of Little Samson,
the tremble in his voice, Johnny. He's just so tired.
He's about to break. He doesn't know if he can handle it.
From late 2016 to probably the beginning of this year, Little Samson has been solidly like $1,000, sometimes a little bit more. And
we
now
even had an episode where we talked about how flat it was.
Yes. Yeah, we called it like The Rock. Like nothing, loose Little even complete Little Samson does not change that much. Because it's this weird thing where it is uncommon and it is really hyped, but it's not like Stadium Events rare or Max rare or something like that. Now the last one that was on eBay pretty recently sold for $1,900, which is really high, but also coronavirus, so it kind of makes sense. You see, now we're in like is it the FOMO time to buy something like Little Samson? And I guess given its track record of not really being affected by a lot of weird stuff in the market, I don't think that you'd have to worry about it being a $2,000 cartridge and going to like a $3,000 cartridge. So I would say no, now is not the time to buy Little Samson. Wait for something to happen. Something's got to happen to cool down the market. Like obviously there's going to be stuff that shot up in price that's going to stay high, but there's going to be losers once the coronavirus panic does calm down. So,
but is Little Samson something that has defied all expectations and not shifted too much when it did finally experience a shift? Its price memory is so strong. Is it ever shifting back down?
Like maybe it doesn't shift back down to 1,000, but maybe you can get it for 1,500 and not 2,000 when you do decide to buy it. I'll put it this way: if I had $2,000 to spend on NES games, a loose copy of Little Samson is not the thing I would be worried about buying. There's a lot of other NES games that, like in certain conditions or certain variants, that I think would go up a lot more before a loose copy of Little Samson.
Yeah, but
because
he's not talking about like big gainers,
I know he's not trying to invest in it, but whatever else he buys with that $2,000 instead of a loose copy of Little Samson, I think that if he thinks about the kinds of things that he wants in his collection, what his collection goals are, he should put that money into, what he thinks will be the games that do the worst, the games that go up in price the most, if he's really worried about this kind of thing. And I wouldn't think that a loose copy of Little Samson is what's going to do that.
Stefan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to say something, and I want you guys to stop me or like give your input if you feel like I'm wrong on this. So when when the heritage / WADA thing, that the phenomenon started to happen and the high end really started going a lot higher, I said something that I feel that I am now incorrect about. And that is, I said that, the high end market is its own lane and it's only going to trickle down so far. And so what I didn't account for was the like genuine scarcity of sealed games. And so now that there is so much more demand on sealed games than there is supply, not only is it jacking the prices up, but it's also like causing people at the high end to give up on certain games and kind of go into the next swim lane, which I was not expecting. So I think the sealed graded community is having a larger sort of trickle down effect than I ever thought possible. So now I'm wondering like how soon, like, so if the sealed market dries up, then like how soon then will like the CIB market really start to be impacted? And then are we then going to see a significant increase in card only games?
Okay, here, I'll stop Stefan because I think he's wrong.
Good.
Fundamentally, the difference between a mint CIB and a sealed game is almost nothing. It's a cut piece of plastic. It's the same object. That's everything there. a loose game is incomplete. I think in terms of especially quote unquote investing, there's no desirability to have a loose game. I would rather have a $2,000 mint Castlevania 2 than a loose cartridge of Little Samson if I was thinking about this from a speculation what's going to be the thing to have standpoint. I don't think that loose games will ever be the thing to have. It's like having a comic that's missing the cover, missing a page, I think.
Okay, so yeah, I think I'm with you on that, Tyler, but also I think what Stefan says does have some relevance, right? We did talk about, that high end, like they're going to stay there, but the scarcity, but we're also in a perfect storm of coronavirus and people buying up all that stuff. And they're like the FOMO. I didn't expect FOMO to enact itself this fiercely on the sealed game market. So my question is, where is it going to stop, right? Because they've already come down. Like PlayStation 1 was the driest, flattest market there was. And now people are like deep into PS1 sealed games, and you see it in like the high end room. Like lots of people are into their PS1 stuff when no one was talking about PS1 back in like the Nintendo age era, like when there was a PlayStation age. And God, what was it called before PlayStation age? Because it got folded into the ages. It was an independent site before that.
No one cared about PlayStation before PlayStation age, Johnny.
But no, it did. It was actually doing better. And then once it became PlayStation, that forum was dead. You couldn't get people in there to talk about PlayStation. It was the driest, deadest place there was. Like deader than Sega Age, which is a feat unto itself. So there was like no activity. It was just a thing that no one cared about. Now suddenly people are talking about PS1, and I don't even know how we got here. And a lot of it is based off of, high quality PS1 seals still being available. So they're like reaching out to these markets, but how far down can you go in sealed games before they become garbage? Like when you start, like, can we pump up Xbox sealed games to put into Heritage and make money? Like maybe, okay, PS2 games, okay, Xbox 360 games, it's got to stop at some point. So, yeah, I mean, I think, right? And then that's why now we're starting to see that trickle over. We just talked about with like some of these high prices we're seeing on CIB games come up. Like when that's converging quicker than I thought. Like I expected it to branch down a little bit. Like I expected it to do exactly what it did. It's like those sealed people like, okay, Nest dried up in sealed markets. Look at Super Nintendo. Let's look at PlayStation and Nintendo 64. I expected that kind of, branching to happen. And then, and the people who go, I'm never going to touch N64 and PS1 because those aren't true retro games. I'm going to stick in Nintendo. I expected those people to go CIB. It is happening faster than I anticipated and more simultaneously than I expected. So I'm not sure what it means.
I think that the velocity of that is what's got me spooked on like how deep this trickle down is going to be as well, right? And that's sort of why I sort of wanted to say something because like you said, I was not expecting it to happen as quickly as it has, and so that velocity also makes me wonder, like, okay, are things going to dry up so much on the high end that it's going to trickle into card only?
I don't think we're going to get into card only. I think Tyler's right. Like at that point, I think when you get to the point where it's only good for card only, there's only going to be a few select titles that are worth that. And then you just move on to a system where you can still get obtainable CIB stuff.
Yeah, like before you get down to card only, you would have to get to like condition complete in box. And I don't think we're going to get at that point where like the high end collector people don't want condition complete in box. So they're certainly not going to want card only games.
Well, I think the high-end collector people are going to want whatever they feel is valuable. So I think if shitty condition CIB starts turning a profit, then there's going to be interest there.
Well, I you know what? It's weird because I actually think, and I'll use action figures for this.
Yep.
If you look at like say Star Wars figures, like nice mint on card, early Star Wars figures, with Star Wars on the print, not Empire Strikes Back or the Return of the Jedi figures or Power of the Force or any of that. But you look at those nice mint on card ones are like the super premium, right? But eventually it has happened over time. Like those are getting so dry and so hard to find. And these are toys where there's a million of them made, just like Nintendo games. where there's become, and I think partly because of the cases, like nice cases for loose action figures. It's like not dependent on the card anymore, because Star Wars figures were weird. They reprinted all the Star Wars figures when they came out. Like if you were an Obi-Wan Kenobi figure and you were like, even though you weren't really in Empire except as a ghost, the original Obi-Wan figure got printed on the new Empire Strikes Back card. And he also got printed on a Return of the Jedi card and a Power of the Force card, and the Tri logo. Like all of this stuff happened. And now, like in collecting, there are these nice cases that display the figure very well and, have a grade on them. So if we get to the point, and that displays better than a shitty box, right? So if we get to the point where a nice loose cart displays better than a shitty in-box one, I think you could see that happen, but I think a lot of it is going to depend on the casing and the desirability of that. And once there's going to be a price separation point too. That's the other thing. Like that is going to be too high end. So you're not going to jump in and be like, well, I guess I'll buy shitty boxes. Like if you're new into the collecting and you want, like if grading becomes more of the norm, you're not going to jump in and like, if you can't get that high end stuff, but you might jump in at graded carts and like draw that line for yourself. So it's kind of the way people drew the line for themselves in collecting games before grading and everything. And some people said, I'm collecting CIB, and other people said, I'm fine with just card only. I think that line could definitely be drawn into graded games as it becomes more of the norm. And especially as it becomes more of the, like, I can confirm this is real. And because people are so worried about repros, and as repros get better, I think, when you can get something, if you're going to spend something for nostalgia only, having a nice grade on it and guaranteed that it's real and it's all authenticated, will mean more. And I think that could start to happen more than like shitty CIB games.
You have a darker view of the future than I do, where people are grading loose cartridges to authenticate that they're real, and they think that's an interesting collectible to have, but that's fine. I do just want to say, even in Johnny's dark future, where we all have a bunch of, we have our full NES sets that are all WATA graded 600 whatever cartridges, even in that future, it will not be worth owning a loose Sega Genesis game. So if you own loose Sega Genesis games, please turn this podcast off right now.
Yeah, don't collect card-only Genesis games. I know we had a listener say, I guess I'm a monster, and he said it as kind of a joke. No, you're a monster, dude.
All right, did we answer that question?
Yeah, I think we did.
I don't know if
and no, you're not like a real-life monster, but like, come on, man, step up your game and just buy some boxes. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so these are my questions. And this is by Strange Purse. Am I saying that right? I'm not sure. Which is the most interesting handheld system to collect for? How do you feel about that, Stefan? Well, let's go, Stefan.
Interesting?
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I think collecting loose Game Boy is fun and like still relatively inexpensive. So from that perspective, like from a collecting perspective, I find that interesting. But like as far as like interested, yeah, that's my answer, because I don't like. I was gonna say, is there a more like interesting like library or something like that? I don't know. I don't know that there is.
You've given your caveats.
Yeah.
You're incorrect, but that's fine. No, it's a fine answer. Tyler?
Johnny shows me probably GBA games more than any other system that I've never seen before that have some weird pack-in or some weird variant or just something weird about them. And it seems like you could dive into an endless rabbit hole because there's like, 2,000 GBA games? Except
like
that
1,100.
The thing is, all the GBA games are like stupid children's licensed games that, while they have a cool variant, I can't care about the game itself. So the only answer to this question, the only answer to this question is the original Game Boy. There's also these weird people that go like, there's like a small handful of people that go super deep into Game Gear, and they think it's the coolest shit ever because there's like 3 Game Gear games that just never come up, even complete in box. So getting a complete in box Game Gear set is like this huge badge of honor. Game Gear because it ruined my childhood. Original Game Boy.
So Game Gear is a garbage system. just so you guys know, there's a few good games for it. The game boxes, but like from a collecting standpoint, like the cardboard hang tabs on top, like if you hate Genesis hang tabs on top of the box, wait until you get these hang tabs that sit on top of Game Gear boxes. Like, do you buy a case that fits the hang tab so it can sit there and then flop around? Then your game is kind of loose, and like if it tilts upside down, it's smashing into it, like if you've got it in a box. Or do you fold the tab down and risk damage it? Game Gear is the worst. The boxes are terrible. The insert is terrible. It's like did you get school lunch? Did either of you guys have this at school lunch where you got something they embarrassingly called a chalupa? And it like sat in a weird tray. I guess like kind of pizza came in the same tray when you got school lunch pizza. But the chalupa very specifically came in this like rounded kind of ovoid, like near ovoid shape dish, which kind of rounded up at the sides, and this like thing with a horrible corn tortilla and just like cheese and like beef was on, and they called it a chalupa. That tray, every time I see a Game Gear box, that's what that tray looks like, is school lunch chalupa tray. That's what I think of every time. It's another reason Game Gear sucks. Game Gear is a hard system to collect for, just in general. Not knowing what are the right boxes, what's European, what's not. Are you going to go for all the European stuff too? It's interesting in that regard, that it's hard to collect for. Game Boy, also very hard to collect for, original, that is, like complete in box. So if you are interested in like that journey, there's not that many of them, but it's expensive and you have to wait. So sometimes that holds people's interest. Game Boy Color is like not very well invested. It's like 8-bit bad Nintendo games, kind of like bad ports and stuff. Don't love it. GBA is the most interesting portable system to collect for right now, I think. Like it has, Tyler says it's got a bunch of kid games, I guess, but it also feels like the Super Nintendo Part 2, because all these, and like Genesis, all these awesome 16-bit era games are on there, and the core of my being lives in the 16-bit era when it comes to retro gaming.
Yeah, so you get to basically recollect your favorite console.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, that makes it interesting. Also, you guys know I love like weird variants and looking up that stuff. So
and like new GBA game was like technically found like last year. So
yeah,
that's
like
pretty interesting.
The system isn't well fleshed out too. Like people don't know. There's crazy stuff I learn from a bunch of people all the time about GBA. So like Coffee with Mr. Saturn is a good person to talk to about GBA. There's some other guys too. Oh man, I got another good guy and I forget his name, but he always direct messages me. I'll have to look through. But yeah, there's some like some of the European stuff is really interesting too. Also, I find the way GBA stuff was like released into the market interesting. I think it's an interesting system from a lot of different weird standpoints. I think quality of the games can be pretty high, especially on the good stuff. Like I want to play some GBA games. I don't really want to play any Game Boy games. I don't really want to play any Game Boy Color or Game Gear games. So like those are all the reasons why I think GBA is the most interesting portable system to collect for.
Tyler, have you told the story of how Game Gear ruined your childhood on this podcast?
100% sure. Just real quick, in case we have new listeners, my parents got me a Game Boy for Christmas, exactly what I asked for. It came with Kirby's Dream Land, which was my favorite NES game at the time. I didn't have an NES. I only played Kirby's Adventure at my friend's house. I turned it on. They saw it was black and white. They took it out of my hands against my will, said, they have a color one at the store. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. No. They returned it and got me a Game Gear.
Wow.
And then I had to sit with an AC adapter on the floor of my room playing Game Gear games for some reason. Game Gear was horrible. And that's my story.
I'm sorry.
So yes. You know what, Tyler, I'm glad that your childhood consisted lived in a time frame where parents still didn't respect children and didn't ask for their insight or opinion. Because that's how I lived too. But people tell me now I'm supposed to like ask my son's opinions on things and gauge his feelings. So I'm glad none of yours were taken in. And it just kind of shows that it is abuse and it did ruin you for life. So maybe I'll take that as a parenting tip the other way.
Honestly, that moment in history is it probably was one of the many little cracks in my life that led me to become a crazy collector who buys all these Nintendo games. So
Yeah,
this is
I mean,
kind of my mom's fault that I'm in this situation.
Tyler's mom, who I know is listening, why did you do this to Tej?
Yeah. Hey, Mom,
Why'd you do this to
listen.
Tej? Tej didn't need that.
Oh, I give her shit about it all the time, but then I tell her she made up for it because it was a big hassle to get Ocarina of Time that Christmas when she got it for me. So she
do they own up to it, or do they like retcon it? That most parents like that didn't happen.
Oh no, she owns up.
I don't remember it that way.
But then she says like, but I got you that Ocarina of Time. It was so hard to get that Zelda, TJ.
All right, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. I love Ocarina of Time so much.
It is your favorite game.
It is.
So, I mean, she kind of did win there for you. All right. This is we have 2 questions from Maticus909. And so in today's current market trends, what do you guys think will stay when the storm calms? Like scalper prices, sealed games, more popular games staying at the high-end prices, etc. So like he's saying right now, like everything is on fire and like hit this peak. So what will retain price memory when this goes away?
What do you believe? I mean, you could answer both, but what do you believe he is referring to when he says the storm? Is that the coronavirus, or is that the quote-unquote bubble?
I mean, all of it. So, like, you have the coronavirus thing going on. You have Heritage Auctions, WATA, the new grading, comic book people. This is like the perfect storm of things happening all at once that are adversely, like, being injected into a marketplace that didn't have this kind of volatility. So now you have a super volatile market all of a sudden, but volatile only in one way, going straight up. So nothing, like, we aren't seeing bubbles burst or anything yet. So I think he's saying, like, that's going to stop. Things are going to calm down, but what isn't going to happen? Like, what isn't going to hit that floor anymore? Like, what's going to stay high? Does anyone want to tackle that? You want me to go first?
Yeah, so I think I can answer this just by saying what I feel like is going to tank. And that is, so right now I think there's a lot of things that are skyrocketing due to lack of education, and over a time period, like that knowledge gap for the high-end collectors is going to shrink, just because by virtue of time, I think that they will then be educated, or the fact that we're out here shaming them for their $9,000 Spider-Mans is eventually going to ring true. And so when you do have a knowledgeable, deep-pocketed community, I think the things that are not culturally relevant and common, I think those are going to shoot through the floor. So you're not going to have these like super, super expensive, like sealed graded, like copies of, I don't know why I keep saying Jeopardy, but Jeopardy. Those aren't going to stay high because you will then have a more educated high-end community. I think the education piece, or another thing that could factor into that would be like when WATA eventually releases a census, that could also factor in some of the titles that have a much higher population than people are dreaming of. I don't know, Ninja Turtles is probably going to be one of those. I think those are going to drop for similar reasons as well. So the things that are culturally relevant and rare are going to be the ones that are just going to stay astronomical.
All right, Tyler, anything to add to that?
I don't know what's going to stay astronomical, but I just know that Atari and Intellivision games sure aren't going to maintain the prices some of them have been selling for. Other than that, I don't want to give any predictions because of how astoundingly, jaw-droppingly wrong this entire podcast was about coronavirus. So that's it.
You know, I felt like that advice was really solid. Who would know that in the face of huge economic downswings, you know, millions and millions of layoffs, unemployment at the highest rate since the Great Depression, that prices on games, a collectible, which would just keep continuing to rise. That defies all logic. I mean, if you told me silver and gold are going to go up, I'd be like, well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Precious metals, commodities, things like that. If you told me, hey, guess what? Game's going to be way up, oil's going to be way down, I would be like, really? During this, I mean, I guess people aren't using as much oil. Like, maybe that makes sense. But games, I guess people play some. But way up all the time. No, yeah, it's very confusing.
I don't think I'm comfortable with the idea of not giving my opinion on something just because I'm scared of being wrong later.
No, I mean,
which is sort of why I addressed the whole swim lane thing earlier, right? That I had said, many months ago now, that I feel like I was wrong on that, and that I corrected it today, and now I can move on with my life.
Look, if you listen to any of the detractors of our podcast, they will tell you we are frequently wrong, and we're still out here giving opinions, so I don't think we have to worry about that. I mean, I've been told we are wrong nonstop, so, that's fine. We had a whole episode dedicated to being wrong, when the one Tyler is referring to, and we're still out here giving opinions.
No, Tyler,
so
the Game Gear didn't ruin your childhood.
Yeah. So the one thing to say, though, is, like, there will be fluctuation up and down. I'm not sure what stuff isn't coming back down, but price memory is a tricky thing. Right? Once people get it in their head that something is worth this much or they're invested in it, and if they're not being forced due to economic pressure to sell stuff off, that, like, it may come down as stuff goes into the market, but it won't come all the way back down. So be very careful about that.
And if your stuff is like not very expensive to begin with, like the original F-Zero for SNES went from $30 to $50. $50 is not very expensive, and that's a very popular first-party Nintendo franchise. So that's what I wouldn't expect cheap stuff to come back down anyway. Like all those $8 games that are now $12 on PS2, it's probably just going to stay that way now.
Yeah, like a lot of these games, like what this proved too, and like what's going to embed itself in people too, as the hobby grows, is people aren't going to want to give up the games that they played and loved, because that used to just be part of the cycle. People just played, purged when a new system came out, play and purge. And now they're like, oh no, I think I should keep this stuff now. As more of that mentality trickles into like non-hardcore collectors, I think it'll be harder to pry stuff out of people's hands. So
what we got to do, we got to hope that Gen Z becomes this like post-consumer generation where they don't want to own any possessions. They just want to travel around with like a MacBook. So they just immediately get rid of all their games. Well, they're probably just going to buy them digitally then, because we're already in that apocalypse.
They're already supposed to be doing that. And, we could go on the whole, we already go down Johnny's darkest timeline where how the market is creating a zone where people don't own anything, and we create a series of traps for all humans. So you basically become an indentured servant with no property and no liquidity, and you are live or die by your subscriptions, and then it can all be taken away from you. Do we want to go into the darkest timeline?
Let me tell you guys about Xbox Game Pass. I think it's just such a good service, but I don't know how to promote it without just sounding like a total douchebag.
Yeah, that actually kind of messed me up this weekend. Kate's son is really into Transformers, and I was like, "Well, I know that's on the App Store or the App Store. I know that's on like the PlayStation Network, right?" So I jump on, and apparently at some point, I don't know when it happened, but like Activision's deal with Hasbro ended, and so like the ports for all the like good Transformer games on the PS3 that they ported to PS4 don't exist anymore. They're just gone. And then of course I was like, okay, well, they got to be backwards compatible, right? Nope, they're not. You cannot play the good Transformers games on that were on PS3 and Xbox 360. You can't play them on current gen on both those platforms. They are not backwards compatible. So I spent 3 hours of my time trying to make these games work, and it turns out I just disappointed a 7-year-old. So that was great.
So
way to go.
Yeah, good job. Way to suck.
Yeah.
You suck. This is your fault. Okay, moving on. Reno the Collector asks us, hey, what is your biggest collecting regret? Tyler, I'm going to ask you first because I know what your answer is. Go ahead.
Oh, damn. What's my answer? No, tell me.
Your biggest collection regret is not buying everything already because, damn it, coronavirus and everything that's happening.
That is the realistic answer. I could give a list of things that I wish I bought. To give an answer that's not just I wish I bought more. I wish I had set better goals like immediately when I started collecting. Just to give an example,
good tip from the Collector's Quest podcast that we always say, set goals. Huh?
So what I'm doing now, which I've been hassling Johnny about constantly, is I'm going and I'm really firming up my spreadsheet Sega Genesis variants. And in the process of doing that, I'm realizing like, oh, damn it, I have this ballistic variant when really I want the Accolade variant because that's the licensed one. And I really just want to have the licensed Genesis set. Or like I have this cardboard box variant and there's 3 cardboard box variants and 1 clamshell variant. It's like, oh, I really want the clamshell for that game. If I had done all of this work before I started collecting Sega Genesis, I wouldn't have wasted all my money on the wrong variants for like 100 different games. And also, obviously, in terms of setting goals, I go on eBay and I find something shiny and I click buy it now all the time. And if I took all of those things that I bought that I didn't really need, I could have bought more stuff that I really wanted. So goal collecting will be my my biggest regret is that I didn't do that better.
Nice. All right. So that was also what I knew Tyler would say. And I love that, like some of the earliest advice that I ever gave on a blog or this podcast was like, set goals for yourself. Don't do this thing. And then Tyler was just going to come in and reiterate that. So, yay.
I'm happy to back you up, Johnny.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Stefan, what about you? You got a big regret?
Yeah, I'm going to tell a story that I've never told.
Ooh.
You ready for this?
Shit. Okay.
You guys have never heard this either.
All right.
Okay. So when I am telling my story about retro collecting and like when I started and that kind of thing, I always cite when Heather, my late wife, got sick when she first was diagnosed with cancer, which was in 2015. It's just a very clean, like event-driven thing that I can point to and be like, yeah, that's when I started collecting games. That is
it's good
actually,
for magazine interviews, right? And you can
right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's actually not true. So way back in 2007, and I know it was 2007 because I was working at Disney and we were working on the ill-fated Prince Caspian game. Me and a friend who I worked with were just like effing around online, and we're just like, you know what? Like, I don't know who thought of it. It was probably him. Probably wasn't me. But he was like, you know, I wonder if anyone has like collected all the Super Nintendo games. And neither of us were like game collectors, so like we had no idea. And we're just like, huh, I wonder if that's a thing. And then like just sitting in over the like a course of a lunch conversation, we're like, you know, like I wonder if you could put one together and just like flip it as a set. Like that seems like that would be like a fun thing to try to do. So we decided that jointly we were going to collect a set of Super Nintendo games, just loose, and just try to flip them in line. And for some context, at the time,
collect the full set just to flip it. That's such a
just to see if we can make a profit. It seemed like an interesting thing to do. So I was like, he was a QA tester, and I was like a lead at the time. So like my income was a little bit stronger, and so we started putting this thing together, and it just turned out to be really complicated because like I was able to put more money into it, and it just wasn't a good idea to do it, you know, for both of us to do it.
No, this sounds like a terrible idea.
It was really a bad idea. And so we ended up getting like probably 400 games in, but like we had like, this was at a point too where like I think the most expensive card-only game that we could find at the time was Ninja Gaiden Trilogy, and it was doing like $100, maybe like 120. And so it is. Because we couldn't like figure out how to do this thing together, we decided to just sell it all off, and you know, which today would be like pennies on the dollar to whatever it was a fine investment for whatever things were, trading for in 2007 money. But had I held on to those 300 or 400 Super Nintendo games, like in retrospect, I would have done quite a bit better than I did when we sold them off. So it makes me sad that I sold off those 300 or 400 Super Nintendo games that I should have kept. That's my biggest sort of retro collecting regret. So that's also my exposure story for the podcast, that I didn't really start collecting in 2015. There was a period in 2007 which I also was buying a lot of games and then sold them off. Yeah.
And that's a great story, Steph. And that really explains why your collection is so shitty now, because you sold off all those games back then, and now you have basically nothing.
That's right. Basically nothing.
Yeah, see, that just goes to prove it's just stuff. You can get it all back if you're really dedicated.
Also, this is very interesting because when I think Stefan and collecting retail video games, I think of him buying an entire set all at once. And it's interesting to know that his philosophy in 2007 was, someone probably wants to buy all the games all at once, right? It really explains a lot.
That's right.
Yeah, he didn't know he was his own best customer.
Yeah. But I was also probably making $15 an hour then.
True.
So,
but it was 2007. So
Hey, I was right there with you. I was working at Burger King in 2007. Still had to collect games.
Stefan, just quick question about that. Did you have SOS?
yes, I did.
Okay. Cool.
I
Just
did
wanted to
indeed.
make sure. That's a throwback to other. If you're a long-time listener, you'll get the reference. All right.
I had Arrow Fighters. Like I did years later. I went back because I found the images that I took on my old Photo Bucket account. I found all of the images that I'd taken for the listings when I resold everything, and it made me very, very sad. I had a lot of the like quote unquote heavy hitters from that set.
You know what's gross? I looked up your Photo Bucket account once, and I did not like anything I saw there. I did not expect nudes. That was a weird thing. You're right. I should have. I was just cyber stalking you, and I was like, "Whoa!" I did not expect to see his head there or that there. There was a lot of stuff that was grossing me out.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah,
it's all like, Ninja Turtles and Dick.
Well, it was Ninja Turtles, Dick, and Gak, which I didn't understand what the Gak was for. Anyways,
so yes, that is my big retro regret.
Okay, that's a good one. That was you had actually told me that a long time ago, but you hadn't told this on the podcast, so that's a good one to share. My biggest, guys, do I have a regret that I talk about that's like a real regret? Because I don't really regret things, and that's not because I'm like a human without regret and I move along. But if I sell something, or part with something, or like miss out on a deal, like I might go, oh, that stinks for a little bit, but all this stuff is just stuff. So I believe I'll either be able to get it again or something else will happen. Like right now I guess I regret not talking to VG Collectaholic more first, because we seem to bid on the same thing. And usually, because my philosophy is I'll get it later, I usually back off after I hit my like decided price point. I don't like usually force a bid. So I know I've cost him money and I regret that.
Johnny, I know that we've talked offline a little bit about your kind of discontent with some areas of this hobby. Like, can you pull a regret out of that, maybe?
I mean, that's like an existential regret for the state of the hobby rather than like a personal regret. Like, sure. I regret that the hobby is the way it is. I regret that.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot and talk about this. I just thought it would be a good primer.
It's fine. Like because I feel like I'm going to get all preachy and high horsey, and I hate when I get like that. Though it happens frequently. I regret. That's something I regret. I regret how shitty I am sometimes to my co-hosts and to our audience with my righteous mind out there voicing my opinion. I regret the state of the hobby in general. I regret that it's gotten to a point where people feel like they can't enjoy it anymore, that it's priced people out. Yeah, of course I regret that. So like that's a big regret, just to see where things have gone, that people care more about the sealed stuff. I don't regret that the hobby is like necessarily expensive, but I regret that some of the people in it don't love games. They love money. Like, I've always regretted that aspect of it. Like, I don't care about people. If you want to make money, like, you're going to look for a thing. But I love it when, like, we'll use Joan Bone, Jonas as an example. He gets brought up frequently.
Notable guy who doesn't care about video games.
No. No, that's my thing. He's an investor, right? He'll tell you he invests, and like, he gets pretty like aggressive about it. Like, he's flipping stuff or willing to make money on his hobby, and that's fine. Like, I am good with that. But I also know he loves video games, right? So I look at that and go like, well, I guess, he's funding his hobby. Like even Rare Bucky to a point, like I used to like look at Rare Bucky stuff and be like, is this guy an ass or like, what is he doing? But now like Rare Bucky's prices just seem normal. So that's weird. I regret the people who are just in it and don't know about it and just like this game. Like every time I see a Facebook post of a NES 101 or like things like that, I regret that we got to that point where all like where people got to the point where it looked like just like the investment opportunity was too good to pass up, and they could just come in here and take advantage of people. That's what I regret, that we got to that point, that people who don't care about the hobby are making money on the hobby. Like if you love games and you're making money, okay, you love games, but like if you love money and you just came here for because games make money, I don't like that. I regret that we got there. Is that fair?
Is that
That's fair.
I mean, it's fair. Can you regret something that's not your fault? It's regrettable. I'm trying to think of how the English language works.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
what I'm saying. Yeah, it is I find it to be a regrettable place that the video game hobby has got to. In part, I think I can say I've probably contributed to some of that, I guess. I mean, not personally, like I don't buy games and flip them like that. I'm a hoarder. Not really a hoarder, but I buy games. I don't really sell them. So yeah, I mean, that's like I said, more existential. So I'm going to trip over that word the whole time. But it's outside of me. I don't, it's not, I don't feel any personal regret about that. And again, not to like be like, I don't regret things, but I usually try to keep it in my life philosophy that, it's fine when things happen. And, like in the video game front, there's not like missing out on a game. Like, I don't care if I missed out. If a stadium event sold for $1 tomorrow, I just barely missed it or something, I would be like, ooh, but I'm not going to sit around in my life and be like, there was this one time a stadium event sold for $1 and I missed it by 5 minutes. That was the worst day of my life. Like, that's just not how I operate.
But Johnny, in 2004, you could have bought a stadium events for $250.
I've been offered a stadium events more than once at prices that would make me blush today. And, didn't take it. I thought it was dumb then. I think it's dumb now.
I think just with every market, you can't beat yourself up about that. Like, I always look at the housing market when I'm thinking about this. Like, my parents bought their home when they were pregnant with me for like $125,000, and today it's like a $4 million home. But I don't like sit here like wishing I could buy a house in 1981. Like, I don't know. It's useless to think about that.
Yeah, it's a waste of time and energy, and that I don't have for something like that. All right, let's move on. We spent too much time on that. Here's a quick one, and only for Tyler. This comes from our friend Chris, CWR2. Why doesn't Tyler make more YouTube videos?
Because editing and like doing anything on YouTube takes forever. Like, mad respect to YouTube channels that actually put out a daily video or weekly video. What the hell?
Well, a lot of them have editors.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how professional YouTube works. Like, even just like if I had a place in my house, I could keep like all the cameras and the stuff and the lights and all that set up. Like, I have to like drag that out every time to make a stupid retro gem miner video. Like, a 3-minute video takes me like a solid entire Saturday to make. It's ridiculous. I wish I could just do what Sean does. Reserved Investments. Sorry for using the casual name. Where he turns on his iPhone, it looks like crap, it sounds like crap, but he doesn't care because he knows he has what he thinks is the best info. Sometimes it's a little weird, but I like listening to him. That's why I don't make more videos. It's hard. And I have to edit this goddamn podcast all the time, too.
Totally. I was going to say that.
Never mind. That's my whole answer.
Okay. Yeah. To be fair, though, several times we have like offered to basically hire someone to do this for you. And then you're just like, no, I want to do it.
I don't think we've ever offered to really not.
We need someone familiar enough with the subject matter. I'm the only one I feel comfortable enough allowing to edit the show.
And that's exactly what you said the last time this came up.
Yep.
Okay, good. That was a quick one. Bandicoot Bill asks, games you thought were expensive but ended up cheap. Well, you guys have any examples of this in your life where you thought something was going to be expensive but wound up being a cheap game?
Like, you just got like a fat deal on it, or
I don't know. Like, maybe just in your head something you thought was expensive, and then when you actually went to go purchase, you're like, oh, it's only this much. Okay, cool.
I'll say in the 2000s, when I was buying more 90s arcade games, people who aren't in the arcade hobby think arcade games are expensive, and maybe they're more expensive now. Who knows? Video games are crazy, but like an average arcade cabinet is like $300, or like for a good one, like a Donkey Kong, it would be like maybe $800, $700. So arcade games were not like this multi-$1,000 things like pinball machines are now. But arcade games, definitely. I'll even give a recent example, also related to arcades. I got my new old stock Super Mario Brothers 3. I bought that pretty recently. Definitely, it was in the past couple of years because I was looking up like, oh, what's the actual first print of Super Mario 3 in America? It's like, oh, it came out on PlayChoice first, and that was only like $200. So that's just something cool. I thought that would be like some weird expensive thing. I don't know how much PlayChoice new old stock is even out there, but I like having the PlayChoice boxes because having a PCB is stupid.
I mean, I've definitely gotten, especially like some sit down arcades. Oh, Virtual On. Virtual On is a good example. So I used to have a twin cockpit sit down Virtual On, and I thought that when I decided I wanted that, I thought it was going to be super super crazy expensive, and then it just turned out to be one of those situations where the guy, I think I paid like $200 for it because I was the one who was willing to come get it. Right. So like some of the like really big arcade games, I feel like you can get like genuine deals on them when by all rights they should be expensive just because they're taking so much space and then people just want them gone now. Right.
I paid $200 for my Silent Scope because Silent Scope is a complete nonsense cabinet that no one should own.
Yeah, or like those twin monitor Time Crisis machines that are just like effing enormous. They're like as big, like gods are big, and those like if you go to like an arcade auction or something, they go for like a couple $100 because they're so big.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the problem with arcade machines is they were designed to be a commercial object, right? And there's an obsolescence to that. As time and technology moves on, then where do those things go? Like they're too big for most people. Like you can't house them, so then it just becomes like if you have space for it, you can afford it. Like
you can't house it, Johnny. I know a guy who's on the way to putting 6 virtual world cockpits into his garage, so you can house it.
Oh man, that guy sounds really interesting and handsome.
Not really. That guy is probably a fucking dummy. Like, did he seriously like retrofit his whole fucking garage and spend more money on repairs than these worthless like junk pods that no one cares about? He's never going to get 6 people in.
By far, the renovation by far was more expensive than the actual.
Fuck yeah, it was. So we know you did it for the love, not for the money. So if you don't know, Stefan bought these pods, and we'll talk. Look, as it comes along more and more on the podcast, you'll hear more about. We don't need to.
Yeah, the end of the month is when we're moving into them. So like around that time, you'll probably hear quite a bit more about it.
I'm sure there'll be 100 Instagram and Twitter posts and nothing about the podcast.
That's right.
All right. Okay. For me, there isn't like too much of this because I always think I'm always like, I can get that cheap. That's always my belief, even though that's dumb and a lot of times wrong. But I will say one game, this was a Game Boy or GBA game. I got an Aero the Acrobat, which I like, 2 on the GBA. Like in my mind, Aero the Acrobat 2 is like an expensive game. And I think there's just Aero the Acrobat, but I'm like, man, I bet this is going to be an expensive GBA game because a lot of these dumb ones are like really expensive. It was like $12 or something. I was like, oh, never mind. There's also
why is that out there? That's like a fairly obscure game, but on GBA, it's not rare.
Yeah, it's not rare.
What kids were like, oh yeah, I got Aero the Acrobat 2 in the year 2003. This is so cool.
You know what is expensive? Altered Beast on GBA.
GBA is the most interesting handheld, guys, with these weird prices and weird rare games.
So another thing is, and we'll keep it on portables, like you think about Game Boy box games and you're always like, man, all of these are going to be so expensive because you see the ones that are expensive, but then you can get like, like a casino fun pack and stuff and you're like $10 or $15 and you're like, there's like this whole slot. I mean, probably not anymore, but as of last year, let's say, of Game Boy games that like complete in box were like $20 or less. And you're just like, oh, I could get like a bunch of Game Boy games if I wanted them in box, just to have boxed Game Boy games for $20. And it's so hard to collect Game Boy box games, because that was the system where definitely all those boxes went in the trash. So to find them just like complete and boxed with all their inserts for $20 on eBay, like shipped, just like you wouldn't expect that. So that's my answer for that. All right, moving on. Jsonic the Kid, he says, which of the Game Boy systems...
Did you intentionally skip a question?
Oh, I didn't. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, Jsonic. We'll get back to you in a second. Corey in Seahole. Oh, Corey Nicole. Man, I thought it was like something that's just literally Corey Nicole.
You tried it. You overthought it.
I totally did. And I'm like, oh, that's like, I'm like, okay, he's doing some cute letter things to do. Nope. It's actually just Corey Nicole. All right. What made you guys decide to get into set collecting? Okay. I'll go real quick on this, and I don't know if this will be your same answers. Once upon a time in video game collecting in like 2007-ish, we'll say, in 2004 through like 2010, you went to this magical place called Nintendo Age, and everyone was like, I can collect a set of Nintendo games. And there was just lists of it. And you're like, oh, and Super Nintendo too. So you're just like, man, these aren't that expensive. I can just buy them all. And then, the games got collectible and expensive. So like, it was just kind of this thing like, oh, you can go get all the Nintendo games because people don't really care about them. So you're just like, I guess I collect sets. Like my childhood answer is, if you listen to, my Super Nintendo episode, there was a part of me that said like one day, like just, that childish thought that like, I think every kid has had at some point, like, I just want to have all the games one day. Like I'm going to have all these Super Nintendo games. You just watch, Mom and Dad. I don't care what you did to me. I'm going to get them all. I promise. Like, yeah, it was like one of those kind of moments. I had that. I think lots of kids did. And I said that about Super Nintendo, and that's like really how I got. And that was like the first system that I said, I want a set for that and the Saturn, for different reasons. So that's my answer.
I always said that childhood Stefan would like punch me in the face if he discovered that, or at least just not understand that when I eventually did attain that goal of having every game ever made, which at this point, when I had that thought, I do have every game ever made when I was having that thought. And yet I still play the same like 5 or 10 retro games. Like he'd be very angry.
Yeah. I have like childhood me who, poor shit, never got like anything. You got your game on your birthday and your Christmas. Like if you're lucky, you got 3 or 4 games a year. If you were lucky, it was 4. Like 2 is the average. 3 was like doing a little better. Like if I told that kid that at one point I averaged buying, arriving at my door 3 games a day for a year, that kid would be like, what the are you talking about? You got 3 or 4 games a day when that's all we got a year. How many of them are you playing? I'm like, no, like none of them.
Yeah.
I definitely,
what do you mean you just play Star Fox?
Yeah, no, I like totally went back and played Final Fantasy again though. Yeah, I'm running through Super Mario World right now. Be like, but we already played those. Yeah, it turns out they're great. Turns out
games just never got better. Who knew?
Yeah, like turns out video game collecting is bullshit. And there's only like really 200 games ever created that are worth a that you should own. So all this other shit is just filler. All those, just buy these ones and keep playing them.
When I was a kid, if I was talking to childhood me, I didn't like hard games. I thought games were too hard, and I was frustrated I can't beat them. And now we live in this world, like this post-challenge world, where games are basically movies, and you'll never buy a game that you just can't beat unless it's specifically trying to be a game that you can't beat. And I just go back and be like, no, you were wrong. Just all the games that were hard, those are the fun games. Like, just go back and play Ninja Gaiden. You suck, kid. But to answer the question, what was the question? Why to get into set collecting? There was there was no other option. Everything that Johnny said, of course, Johnny's answer was good. But I'd go on Digipress. I'd need a way to track my Nintendo games, so I'd download a checklist of the NES games. And what do you do once you have a checklist? You try to check all the boxes.
You get them all. That's like in the 80s, everything had a checklist. You bought a pack of collector cards. There was always a checklist in there, and you're like, well, I got to get all of them. Like, what am I supposed to do with these boxes? Leave them blank? No, I got to get a check in those boxes. That's why they're called check boxes.
And yeah, in 2005, if you were like, I'm gonna go buy my favorite games, and you bought like Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario 3, and Blaster Master, like, not that collecting is a contest, but people would look at your collection and be like, what the f*** are you doing? Super Mario Brothers and Blaster Master, get some cool games, kid.
Yeah, they're also like, why don't you have at least 200 of them? That's how collecting works. That's back in the day.
Yeah, and because I would go to flea markets and I would just like pick up a pile of games, and they'd all be. Also, I got into collecting because Virtual Console games were $5, and I thought that was fucking nonsense because I can buy all these Nintendo cartridges for $1 or $2. So every time I bought a game, I felt like I was sticking it to Nintendo. So the more I collected, the more I felt like I was sticking it to Nintendo.
So anyways, yeah, it's a funny thing how that has shifted, because now the idea of set collecting is really stupid, and don't fucking do that, and just target those 200 games I was telling you about, and then get them all as nice as you possibly can, and then get them graded, and you'll have a sweet collection that will make you money. All right.
I guess I should probably actually answer the question. It is very brief because I tell the story over and over and over and over and over again. But I started collecting sets in 2015 when my wife at the time was diagnosed with cancer. I needed something to distract me from that. And it was just this perfect storm where I was getting out of collecting like toys and comics, and I was kind of bored with that. And so I had like this piggy bank of a collection to use. And then I had this like horrific thing happening in my life that like I needed a distraction from. So I basically cashed out one collection and started funneling money into the Super Nintendo set was my first one. But yeah, it was a very a regimented way and new way for me to distract myself from this like horrible thing in my life, and that's how I got into set collecting.
We call it retail therapy.
I heard that you wanted to buy all the Super Nintendo games to see if someone would buy them all at once.
Yeah, that's a story that I've told. No, but in earnest, when I was started collecting for myself rather than that's just a thing that would be interesting to try. Yeah, so buying games for myself, that's when that happened.
All right. Now, finally, to J-Sonic the Kid's questions. So, which of the Game Boy systems do you prefer to collect for? I prefer.
You definitely already answered this.
Yeah, GBA.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah, I answered it too. The original Game Boy. I think there's no wrong answer, except the wrong answer is Game Boy Color, because Game Boy Color is a garbage system. Maybe worse than N64 in terms of how only the top 20 games matter.
GBC or DS? DS, I think, actually has a pretty sweet library.
Yeah, DS is awesome.
But DS also has a disproportionate. You want to talk about shovelware, like that generation of.
But, like when you collect it, you don't have to collect every single game though. You could have a sick collection of like 150 DS games.
Stefan, you've been showing the DS some major love lately, and now you're going to back away from it?
Yeah,
Did it scorn you?
No, I was just grabbing some of the stuff the playable stuff that I wanted. But I will say, I'm sure a lot of the big publishers have a similar story, but when I was at Disney, it was in the DS era, and at that time, we were the number one publisher by SKU for Nintendo at that time, because we were just pumping out the DS games, and they were not great. So yeah, there was a disproportionate amount of shovelware, I think, because DS was so easy to make, and especially publishers that had something like, I don't know, like a television show like Disney did, where it would be, you could make a DS game before that show cycled out, like Cory in the House, which was a show about a kid who lived in the White House that nobody cared about.
Cody.
We were making DS games for those games. We couldn't have made console games for a lot of those shows and it actually happened to me once where the show would get canceled before you would ship your game, and so then this investment and this time investment that you put in is scrapped, because you're not going to ship a game that for a canceled show. And that actually happened twice to me, once at Disney and once at THQ, when we were working on BattleBots and we had the Gold Master, and then they canceled the show and we didn't ship that game.
Come on, BattleBots has such a nostalgic feeling to it. Someone would buy the BattleBots game even if it's not on the air. All right.
Sure?
Guys, don't go into the game industry. It sounds super brutal and soul crushing, especially in terms of maybe having your entire project scrapped.
But at the same time, if you're in the game industry right now, it's a pretty decent place to be, because you still have your job and you're working from home.
Okay. That's good to know.
So everyone join the game industry, because it's going to be the only hope in the future when all that matters is entertainment and being able to work from home.
That's right.
I'm actually pretty glad that Disney isn't making games like they used to, because then we would have there's a bunch of High School Musicals, but could you imagine? I don't know if you've seen the recent suite of Disney live action shows that would now warrant horrible games. but they're really terrible. Like My Zombie Boyfriend and shit like that, and like Enchanted. Like it's just a bunch of terrible garbage out there.
Does
like,
it not hit like iOS
so
or Switch or something?
I mean, it probably does. Not Switch. Not all of them. Like they're like, just go look if you've ever if you've got the Disney Plus app, and just go look at that horror show that exists down there, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, well, I think it's
like all
games
tweener
are now,
stuff.
No matter what platform you're on, games are hard and expensive and time consuming to make. And I think there was like a paradigm shift where like the handheld platforms at the time were the easy platforms, right? Like, no, we can't do a fucking 360 game, but we'll do a GBA game real quick. There's not really that option. I mean, there is mobile now, but even some mobile games are, it still takes a considerable amount of effort.
You guys got Unity? Yeah, just put it on mobile. Just get it out there. Yeah. I mean, the shows I'm talking about are the tweener shows, like that age range that's probably 8 to 12,
But you're right. In the GBA and DS generations, every single one of those shows would have gotten a game.
Yep.
Every single one.
And now if you look at those shows for that age range now, I can't imagine owning those games. But I mean, I've got games like The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, so what do I fucking know? All right.
Sign that for you?
No, I don't want you to sign anything I have. I don't. Look, some people think you're like hot shit. I don't.
Look, I am a brand, Johnny.
You are not. Whatever you think you are, I love to be that thing that keeps you grounded. That's what I'll be in your life forever.
That's fair.
Like, you might become super successful, and I'll just be like, shut the fuck up, Stefan. Like, come on. Get over it.
No, I'm into that.
So, and I'm real like that. I'll stay that way. Okay. Which system should Archon collect first? PS2 or the Wii? So you don't get to answer this one, Stefan. This is for Tyler and
Fair.
I. Tyler, go ahead.
It's the PS2. In broad strokes, I think PS2 is the last collectively interesting console for a number of reasons. From it doesn't have stupid limited editions to has like probably the best library of games in all of video games, and the Wii certainly does not. And this isn't even a competition, I don't think, because you're going to say the exact same thing. Literally, all the Wii has going for it is that it says Nintendo on it.
Surprise answer: okay. Wii U.
There's one other thing that the Wii has going for it right now, and that's Johnny has most of a set that he doesn't want. So that,
but I'm probably going to finish it.
I'm just saying,
my God, you could finish it and then sell it to Stefan, who will definitely buy it if it's all just right there.
I might. That you would definitely have the best chance of me buying.
All right, so if I want the best chance of selling to Stefan, I mean, I have bought a few Wii games this year, which is more than I bought last year. Which system should he collect first? Is PS2. Which one might he collect first? We will see. See what I did there?
I think we'll like. There's two systems that legitimately have a chance of me actually finishing them.
Saturn.
It's neither of those.
Saturn,
it is Saturn,
and Game Boy?
Saturn and Game Boy. Yep,
Yeah,
Saturn
gotcha.
and Game Boy.
Boom. Okay, so our friend Nick asks, who would win in a pull-up competition, Johnny, Tyler, or Stefan?
Johnny.
I'm like pretty fat right now, but I am still pretty strong. Let's see. I could probably. Oh man, I don't know. Pull like my fat ass. Like, can I still do it?
Pull-ups are hard though. Like
pull-ups are hard. Even when I was like super fit. I mean, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to be braggy, but I used to do like a lot of pull-ups back in the day with plates between my legs because I was like pretty sweet like that. Also, it's a bit of like gym showing off. Like, you just put on the belt and put like 2 45-pound plates between your legs, and then go like jump and do like 8 pull-ups. You look pretty cool. At least that's what me at like 23 thought. I'm going to say Stefan, because you're probably more fit from ring fit.
Stefan's like 7 feet tall. Isn't that a disadvantage?
He's not 7 feet tall.
I'm
He's like
6 feet
foot
tall.
Nah, all right.
He's like half an inch bigger than me, if that.
Okay. I don't know anything. I don't see you guys all the time,
well,
okay?
I like, Tyler, aren't you like 6 foot? Like, I always think you're shorter than you are, but you're not. You're like 5'11",
5'11".
Right? Yeah, like I think you're like my exact height, and Stefan is only maybe half an inch taller than me.
None of us would win a pull-up. If there was literally one other person in the pull-up competition, none of us would win it.
So let's ask, can you do a pull-up?
I don't know. I haven't tried. I have no upper body strength. I used to have some decent lower body strength when I was really into
What
dancing
about
games.
strength?
I played with weights.
That's what I'll say. Like, all of my strength is like all my strength is in my legs. Like, if there is any like point that I feel like I do have some strength, it is in my legs.
Yeah. See,
so if this was a squat, if it was a squat competition, I feel like I would be in a better shape to
I mean, I carry around my fat ass all day, so I don't know. My legs are pretty jacked. No, but like I'm big and barrel chested, and I've always been strong through the chest, and like had a pretty good bench and pretty good pull up ability, just because I have bigger muscles there, like just due to my shape, I think. So yeah, I always did.
I guess I just always assume that, like, in my head, I feel like if you've been in the military, then you're just fit forever.
I mean, that's why I always immediately just say Johnny when this question comes up. This is not the first time a question like this has come up, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think someone asked who was going to win in a fight, and I'm going to murder both of you guys in a fight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just, you guys I could fight you both at the same time and kill both of you.
Yeah.
And that's not just ego. That's just because you guys aren't fighters, and I would stick you. So, all right. Yeah, I don't need to get all like macho and like, I'm so tough, because like I'm just like a fat old man at this point. Give it a few more years and I won't be able to walk. And then you can take me. Jay Metal World Peace asks, will Kat ever join y'all in an episode again? And the answer to that is, I don't know if Kat will ever be on another episode with me, Tyler, and Stefan, but I am hoping that Kat is going to come and do a special episode with me this Christmas.
Oh.
How about that? These guys don't even know what I'm saying right now.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know
what
that.
Is this news? I know you don't know that.
Kat never officially left the show. She just kind of disappeared one day.
Kat?
I've never actually spoken to her, which is weird.
Oh, Kat's great. I love Kat. Like, people think like people imagine that there was some sort of drama and it was like just didn't get bit. It's like when you're in 8th grade and you date someone and you just like, you don't really break up and you just kind of like move. That's kind of what happened. Like we just got busy, but like I like still text her on her birthday. I'll send her the random text. Yeah, no, I'm gonna ask her because these two guys, they don't love to do the Christmas episode, so I'm like, I thought it would be fun maybe to bring Kat in for a Christmas episode with me. That was my thought.
That sounds fantastic, because I
know.
Also, don't forget we have the secret bonus Christmas episode in the bank.
Oh, that one's never seeing the light of day. That's for patrons only.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I came across that a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, we have an episode that we never put out because it was way too late.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Okay.
Was it also really bad? Was it the one where we were also all traveling, and
it was a lot of things.
It might be, but it was also because I finished editing it in like January, and it's like, well, I can't really put out a Christmas episode right now.
Tyler was traveling was like the big thing. He like went somewhere for Christmas. So Nintendo Twizzler Aaron asks, when can we expect an episode of PSP UMD movie set collecting? So you want to collect PSP UMDs. And he says a follow-up, since there's more UMD movies versus PSP games, does that make the games a subset? Okay, first, don't be gross, Aaron. All right, you knock it off. That's gross. UMDs, the movies are not games. Okay, Universal Movie Disc, no. Those are movies. They're not games. You don't need to collect them. They're like GBA video. Just forget about them. They're disgusting and don't touch them. But there are people who are passionate about collecting these things. Those people are incorrect. He's probably going to do it because he's a gross individual. Aaron, stop it. Just stop. This whole question, stop it.
Do you think he's trolling, or do you think he's like genuinely like wanting to do this?
He probably wants to come on the show and talk about UMD movies just so someone will listen to him about it.
He's got like a little laugh emoji about it, but I'm sure like there are some people who do believe. Well, there are some people who believe that it's it's part of the set. Like you have to collect the UMDs. Really? I think like VG Collectaholic. I don't know if he believes that, but I think he is kind of interested in UMDs, the movies. And I think then like if he found a bunch of them, if Aaron found a bunch of them, he might like look at it to put a set if he could find them cheap. Like part of like what's fun about collecting that you can't do anymore, and like why UMDs could be fun is that all games, you can't go find them anymore. They're just expensive. Everything's expensive, so you're not like really finding deals anymore. But you could go do this kind of passively and like find stuff here and there and be like, oh, look, I'm building up this silly UMD collection. You could go do something like that. But even some of the UMDs, like, it's weird to think that there are UMDs that are sought after.
I know there's like anime ones that are super expensive.
Right.
Just because they have anime characters, I guess, because no one is watching these.
Yeah.
You got to do a HD DVD set because, those were playable on the Xbox. So
yeah, well, I mean, who's got their HD player that came with King Kong? Raise your hand.
Got it at FYE for $20.
Woo, yeah, I got
but
mine
also,
for
speaking of that, Stefan, I bet there will be like hardcore Xbox 360 collectors. They will have a little shelf dedicated to HD DVDs because it's part of the console history. But I would be shocked if there are more HD DVD movies than Xbox 360 games. I did not know there are more UMD movies than PSP games. There were a decent amount of PSP games, weren't there?
Yeah, I think so. Over 1,000, I think.
Whoa, really? I didn't even know there were that many. But
I thought, that might be worldwide.
Okay.
So, but I don't want to, like, PlayStation pumps out the games, like, and they do ports, like, pretty heavily. Like, Nintendo always gets, like, that thrown at them. Oh, you just port all your, but, like, what the PlayStation did that with the PSP pretty heavily, too. Yeah, I would expect to one day see a shelf of, like, a Series P SP collector having all of them. Again, like you said, it's part of the history. One day someone's going to find that interesting. Okay, I don't think we need to talk anymore about that. Sorry if you guys had answers. I just don't want to dignify it too much. 16-bit Dad, what are your favorite things about collecting? The community, the hunt, or something else? Go ahead, Stefan.
The hunt. I'm not shy about that. I say now that I only go for things that aren't for sale. And that's not entirely
the most dangerous game.
Yeah, I do. That's sort of how I got into the place that I'm at now, where I just found things increasingly easy to do. When things got, when like retail games were just expensive and not difficult. Like that's sort of where I started going to displays, and then into my game counselor stuff, and into art and all that. So it is like partially me chasing the things
dragon?
that are more and more genuinely difficult to do. Yes, I'm also a heroin addict.
Good answer. Good answer.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you, Tej? What's going on?
I don't even know if I like the hunt anymore. Like, the hunt for me now is 100 eBay save searches that hit my inbox every single morning. And I have to use like vague save searches so I make sure to get anything that's poorly listed. And I just go through 100 emails and don't find what I'm looking for. And if I do find it, I'm probably buying it at market price because it's something that hasn't come up. I hate the hunt now. So I guess like something like the community would be a good answer that would make me look good and stuff. But I'm going to give the honest answer of figuring out something like a variant or some piece of knowledge that a lot of people don't know, and then just buying that thing and holding it in my hands and being like, I have this and no one even knows about it. I'm going to say that feeling is my favorite part of game collecting. But also being just being surrounded by
your favorite part,
and being able to pick whatever I want off the shelf at any time. It's the freaking best. What'd you say, Stefan?
I said being a gatekeeper is your favorite part.
Well, no, I'm not gatekeeping because I'm not even telling anyone like about this stupid thing. That's gatekeeping?
Yeah, that's.
I'm not even letting people know the gate exists.
Yes, I know. It's the worst kind of gatekeeping. You're hiding knowledge.
But I'm not intentionally hiding it because no one cares about it.
You just said you're intentionally hiding it.
You just said you rub your hands together like a greedy little jerk.
Oh my God.
Like when I gave that answer about how I like to, I'm like, and then I get to share it with people, and that's why we have a podcast. You're like, and then I don't tell anyone. Like, whoa.
If I didn't tell people, oh my God. It's not like stuff that no one knows. It's like the Ninja Gaiden print code thing. That I want to get all the Johnny, Ninja Gaiden print codes, and once I do, I'll be like, I have all the Ninja Gaiden print codes, and no one cares about these, but they don't know that I have the real good stuff.
This might be the first time that Tyler says he's going to edit something out and actually does it, because he sounds like a monster right now.
Oh my God.
I think that sounds like reasonable. Okay. Man, I didn't expect that this question would be so hard. Okay. Because boy, I I love my little Insta community. I love the people I talk to. I love the people who like listen to our show and stuff. But the broad strokes of the community right now is a little bit gross. I don't like Twitter. I don't like the people on Twitter. Like just because they don't know what they're talking about, and it's like crazy. I feel like it's like Reddit people talking, and you're just like, oh man, I don't want to hate Reddit. It's front page of the internet. But also those people are just like always saying wrong things and like making me have to correct things. Like you guys are just making work for me. So I hate that. I feel like Twitter's a little bit about that. And Facebook is a toxic waste dump of humanity where people who are toxic waste dumps seem to collect and then, spew opinions and then buy expensive games and show pictures of them as they rub their genitals. That's how I feel about the Facebook community. So I'm not super into that. Like really the community is my favorite part, but that I feel like the area that I can go, like enact with the community and feel good about it. I feel like that zone is shrinking, right? I feel like the high end game rooms, the filthy game rooms, the water, like all these guys, like I feel like not good about it. And I feel like a lot of the transactions, a lot of the people I've seen like complain about the price of games being too high, especially like in the filthy area, right? Like the games are too expensive. Like you see these people complaining, but then they're like, I just found this thing and I'm going to go sell it for $150. Haha. And they're like so happy about this money they're making. But like just a week ago, they were complaining about game prices being too high. And you're just like, well, like, do you not feel what you're doing to contribute to that? And I'm not saying games should go back to being super cheap or available or anything like that. Making no judgment on that. I'm just saying like you came and you complained and made things shitty because like no one loves to read a complainer post. And then you just said, out of the other side of your mouth, how happy you are to enact that on other people. I don't like it. And then like the high end game rooms, like making it feel like all the games are going to be unobtainable for people who just like want to collect on a basic level. That kind of sucks. Yeah, this is hard. It's like hard because really the community is my favorite part. Like video game stage is okay, but I don't feel like I don't go on there enough to like really feel a community aspect. I just kind of like slink in once in a while and like read through some for sale posts and like the collector's area to like learn some stuff. But I don't like, I feel good about Instagram, like the people I still keep around me there, but yeah, it's getting harder. Like right. I love to see when people get a win. And I don't love the hunt. I do love the hunt for knowledge. So I like that part. It's a hard question.
So to be clear, Johnny's answer is he hates every aspect of the hobby. And Tyler's answer is he likes having obscure knowledge and wallowing in it by himself.
To lord over the community, but they don't know that he's lording it over them. He's like,
it's not that is so.
It's so weird. Oh my god, that answer is so terrible.
No, it is. But all right. So the Mario 3 print run dates that's obviously information that's out there. Wada has posted that on Facebook. I have made fun of that in Retro Gem Miner videos. We've probably brought it up on the show. No one really cares about that. I feel like if I ever. Like, I enjoy having the quote-unquote true first print of Super Mario 3, but even just mentioning that now on the show makes me feel disgusting because I feel like the concept of quote-unquote educating people in terms of, like, hyping something up is something that people do to try to get money. And I don't want people to think that I'm bringing up something I think I have that is cool because I already have it, and so now I'm trying to make it seem like an important thing.
It's like that one YouTube channel you don't like, what's that collectible channel where he only brings up the expensive stuff that
collectibles?
He has.
There's like some really weird Wada channel now. He's like, I got this 8.5 ET on Atari 2600. Now this is one I really think you guys should invest in at least an 8.5. It's such a weird channel.
So this is the thing I like about this podcast and what we stand for here and like what we're about. So we aren't about the monetization of the hobby. Like we know the hobby can be expensive, but we're not trying to use our information or power to monetize it for ourselves. You don't see us out there like reselling or flipping or buying sealed games so we can like make them dollars, which all three of us totally have enough knowledge and buying power that we could go do this into the hobby, but that's not what we do. We like knowledge. We like learning about games. So when we find something or cool and like we're showing it, it's generally because we like it. And that's the part of the community stuff I was trying to get. And Tyler, you've made me a little more succinct in my answer. I hate the way things have been solely focused on the monetization of this hobby. It makes me feel gross about it because I feel like people aren't enjoying it. They're just interested in the money it can make them.
Yes. And for anyone who thinks I'm a knowledge hoarder, one, I'm on this podcast, and two, go look at like the collecting guides section of Video Game Sage. I've posted like dozens of Genesis variants, and I have a whole Xbox thread of like literally everything I know about the Xbox. I like sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
I just don't like doing it when it looks like it's in a way that I'm trying to make money.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Tyler. Speaking of sharing knowledge.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
Apologize to Tyler, Stefan.
No.
I'm a monster.
You said he's gross. You said he's a monster.
I did say he's a monster.
Stefan, have you met you? You're a monster. No, okay.
Hey, Tyler, there's 484 domestic HD DVDs.
All right.
484.
All right. That is definitely lower than the number of Xbox 360 games. Good to know.
Yes.
Okay. So here's a quick answer that I'll take this one, guys. When are you interviewing reserved investments? We're not, never. Unless Stefan or Tyler do it, and it'll be as good as their Odyssey episode, I'm sure. No, actually, I'm sure a bunch of people would like that, but I don't watch that. I am not interested in that like brand of content that he brings, partially because the part of the hobby I was just talking about, the monetization of it, I don't like that. Also, I have a problem with people who don't actually collect in my hobby trying to tell me about it.
Hey now, he has a graded Fire Emblem Fates special edition and a bunch of amiibos, Johnny.
And I bet he's like, you should buy these.
No. Oh, you really don't watch reserved investments. Actually, I think that might be one that he buys. He has a bunch of like complete garbage, like modern special editions. What the Link's Awakening, the new one that just came out, he has that sealed. I'm almost positive he has that sealed. And then he's like, don't buy these. If you can flip this for more than MSRP, do it now, idiot. No one is going to want these in 20 years. So.
But that's wrong, probably.
Tyler, if you do that interview, I want to come.
I can't. No, I don't like conflict. I'm only willing to disagree with Johnny because of how long I've been on the show. If you listen to the first few episodes I was on the Joe, Johnny would say something and I would just go along with it. And it took me a while to realize like, oh, I should just disagree with him when I don't agree with him.
You don't disagree with reserved investments. He's like, he's your senpai.
He says some funny things sometimes. I enjoy him 100% of the time.
And that's a good distinction to make, right? Like you can enjoy something that is nonsensical and not always correct, but that like just because you enjoy something doesn't mean you agree with it 100%.
That's true.
So, okay. But a lot of people, nuance, we live in a day and age where nuance is lost, and I don't know why, because the ability to obtain information and nuance has never been greater. Anyways, let's move on from that question. Cool. This one comes from, hold on, let's have to get this. This episode and all episodes of Collector's Quest are sponsored by Cheap Games, where you can find the cheapest imports. Get with Red the Game Shark, and he will make sure you get some cheap deals. That's Cheap Games. You can find him under Red the Game Shark on Instagram and at most conventions. Okay, we've got our sponsorship taken care of. So now we have a question from our sponsor, Red the Game Shark, which says, with Stefan taking all the cool next level stuff, how is anyone supposed to flex on IG now?
Wow. Well, I don't post on IG, so that solves your problem.
Yeah, he's down there talking to Twitter dummies, as I like to call them, Twitter fetuses, and flexing on them. And they're like, I've never seen a boxed Nintendo game. Those came out way before I was born. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. You want to, Tyler, how are we supposed to flex on IG if Stefan has taken all the good stuff? He's gone to the next level.
Not taking all the good stuff because I don't care about 90% of what Stefan buys. My Instagram follows a very, very specific pattern. You will see me post something like Super Mario 3 or Mike Tyson's Punch-Out that people actually care about, and then I will sneak in some PC games or weird stuff that I actually care about, like the Magnavox Odyssey or like a Famicom box game, and I just keep that cycle going. So I keep the interest high with the same goddamn NES games that everyone else is posting, and then I try to post something I actually find interesting.
So we're never going to keep up with Stefan because he's in a totally different lane than us. And his lane, like, objectively is far more interesting to people who are in the hobby and then, like, not really in the hobby. So,
or if you just want to see stuff you've never seen before on Instagram, which is generally what I do want to see.
Yeah. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like you as in Stefan, you're going to show stuff that's generally more interesting than I'm going to show you. You're going to see shit that you've seen before if you look at my stuff. And, like, it's not like I'm posting super common stuff all the time. But you post weird stuff. And, like, if we live by that mantra, that's like Stefan buying one of ones and stuff, then, no, we'll never be able to compete. But also there's this thing called inclusivity and feeling like you're a part of something. And there's no one who's going to connect with Stefan on that level. Like, oh yeah, I also have that one of one.
Saying, Johnny?
Yeah, like Stefan used to be the garbage man and used to be the most relatable person on the show the way he bought shit. And now you turned into the least relatable. But I'm not sure.
He was the relatable one. He bought entire collections all at once. I was the relatable one because I was still working on loose sets at the time.
I transitioned into that too, though.
Yeah,
like, I wasn't doing that. In the
but he was like Stefan was like our new collector on the show, and he'd be like, I like games, so I'm going to buy all the games. Like, he would just buy stuff.
I'm making bad decisions all the time.
So, and then, like, we leveled up Stefan so hard and, like, also his own knowledge and work that then he's like, oh, yeah, f*** all you guys. Now look at me. What are you doing now? Oh, show me your common stuff. I'm like, this is an Outback Joey. It's pretty rare. You've never seen more than, like, 12 of these. And he's like, this is a one of one. Howard Stern spit on this, okay? And it's a brick that came out of Nintendo. So, you got that? No? Okay. Guess what? This is Howard Phillips underwear. I got this. He gave it to me. Not because he wanted to, because I threatened him at knife point. So this is a one of one. That brown streak is from me. Okay.
From me?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's shit or blood at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I had that knife on him good. That's all I'm saying. No. So we're just like, we're not competing. But like I was saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is we don't collect the same things. We just don't.
Thank goodness. No, we have collected the same things and it's been fine because there is like, this stuff isn't that rare. There's plenty of stuff to go around.
You and I were doing original Xbox together. That was actually kind of fun.
Yeah. It's nice to collect stuff with people and help them out. I like collecting at the same time as people. People are so competitive now. Like now we live in a world now where it's so super competitive. People are like, I don't want anyone collecting the same thing I'm doing because then I won't get it.
I'm looking for fucking pogs and I'm scared to say which pogs I'm looking for in case I inspire someone else to find those pogs.
Man,
hey,
I'm coming hot.
If there's any pog inspiration happening, it's coming from me.
Right.
That's true.
Okay. So, but Stefan has good stuff. And thanks to our sponsor, Rudd the Game Shark. Look for him and all the best imports on Instagram. Go ahead and send him a DM if you need something. He's got the hookup. All right. Cheap Games.
I've got him looking for some stuff for me right now.
Me
Red,
too.
I know you're listening.
Where's my fucking Castlevania art, Red? Where is it?
Not maybe the stuff that Stefan needs. I'm looking for some.
You're never getting that Castlevania art. That's coming to me.
Don't
care about it.
I don't think I am either. I think he's too afraid to ship it. I don't think it's gonna get here.
I'm also going to take it from you. You don't need the Castlevania stuff. You don't even like Castlevania.
It's such a weird Oh God.
You don't even like Castlevania. What are you doing?
I do like Castlevania.
You don't.
I have a giant oil painting of Simon Belmont in my fucking living room.
You have a lot of stuff that you on your wall that you don't love. Get out of here.
That's a beautiful painting, though.
Yeah, I should have that painting. I love Castlevania more than anyone on this show. The out of here. Dick. It's dicks like these art collectors.
Sounds like you're gatekeeping who can own that art, Johnny.
Us real collectors can't own the art because people like Stefan are keeping it from us, making it too expensive. Anyways, guys, what is something you've paid for, like a significant amount that just took a dump, just took a big price dump on you and just like kind of made you facepalm? This comes from my buddy Nocturne Eric.
My brand new 2012 Hyundai Accent SE. Other than that, in terms of video games, I'll think about it while you guys go.
Stefan, do you have a quick answer? If not, I got one.
Yes, but I'm going to sneeze. Hi.
Bless you.
Yeah, my quick answer would be the last game in my Super Nintendo set, SOS Sink or Swim. We talk about this game a lot because I paid hundreds of dollars for it when it was not a hundreds of dollars game.
Like,
it was the last game in the set.
I'm just gonna say, that stupid game, like you're trying to buy a game and you go on eBay and there's one at this price and you're just like, who the fuck is ever gonna buy it at that price? That is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Well, Stefan, tell us about SOS.
Yeah, it was $300 or $400 that I paid for that game loose. In an environment where it was like not $100 game. And but it was the last game I needed in the set. And if you've ever been around the podcast or around my feeds when I am completing sets, you probably notice that once I get it to about 100 games left, I start making really, really irrational decisions. And SOS was the last game that I needed to complete the Super Nintendo set. And I created like a short-term artificial bubble in that game because I overpaid so hard.
So I hope all of your, I hope that sounds crystal clear on your end, because you sounded like a robot to me. I don't know if you did for Tyler as well.
Yeah, you sound like garbage, Stefan. I don't know what happened.
So, but hopefully, since your audio track is your own, it won't be a problem. But I got the gist of what you were saying. Also, I know that story. I've got one that makes me annoyed. Maybe this should have been my biggest regret, but I don't even regret it. The New Leaf cart that I bought for the Sega Genesis. I think I forget what I paid, but right after I bought it, someone found a box of them and that instantly cut the price to 1/3 of what I paid for it. So there was a bunch of them, I think at one point running around for $300 or something.
Yeah. I think, speaking of Jumbo, I'm pretty sure he got one of those.
Oh, for sure.
I'm pretty sure I was the underbidder on one of them, and now I want one more because I've been focused on Sega Genesis lately. But yeah, that was a weird cartridge to buy. That was a weird thing to drop in price. New Leaf. That was a super obscure thing.
I waited so long for that game. I fought so hard, and it took so long for me to finally get a New Leaf at a reasonable price, and then out of the blue, here's just 20 of them. And you're just like, what the fuck? Years and years and years of having it on my save search and battling for it. Not even closed auctions I was missing. It just was one guy putting it up for too much money, and then right after I negotiated a deal with someone who kind of had one, and then a box of them just turns up, which has to be the only thing that I'm okay with is that's got to be the whole stock ever of them. So they're not coming back out. So Tyler, if you want one, I think there was one maybe it's gone, but it was a G on.
They got I want one in nice condition. I know it's a stupid rental cartridge, but I don't like having cartridges with torn labels, and a lot of them have torn labels. They do, but at some point, all the stock on that is just going to be gone. I know, but it's a stupid rental card. I honestly don't care that much. I would pay $300 for one. I wouldn't pay $1,000 for one. There's more crazy things in this market to put my money into. There totally is. There are things that are going to be cooler, but that's one where I'm just what the. That was just that was a really weird and pretty unexpected turn of events. Yes. I don't think any of us would have said, I bet this is the one people are going to find a box of. That wouldn't have been on anyone's radar. So, Tyler, you got an answer for us now? So I said my car because I typically don't spend a huge amount on a video game unless I'm not thinking of it from an investment perspective, but I am thinking of it from I don't want to spend $1,000 on this if it's going to be something that drops in value. That New Leaf is not something I would I wouldn't be extremely confident on that having an $1,000 value forever. Whereas something like Star Fox Super Weekend was probably worth, whatever, $750, probably be something that's more likely to maintain that value. I'd say the one thing is the story I told go ahead. Before we were recording. I bought Little Samson at the absolute top of the market in 2016 for $1,250 loose. And that was the highest sale for a very long time, I think. But now, obviously, I think it's gone up a little, but a little. I didn't really feel bad about it because I needed it to complete my NES set at the time. But that's the only thing I could think of where I didn't do very good on making a very expensive purchase.
Yeah, like that's like Little Samson's fine, but like you said, like you're not sure like New Leaf would have maintained its value. Like there's no world which I would have said New Leaf is definitely going to tank. Like it might fluctuate a little bit, but it like for me it was always going to be something that was around that price because the people who care about them will buy them and then never get rid of them. So it's always going to probably be at this price. That's
I mean, I guess.
So like
I
don't think they're like, to me, it was kind of unprecedented that it could happen. That did happen. And I mean, it's now crept back up and it will be more than I'm sure long term going to do just fine. And that's like part of the other thing that's hard for me. Like, cause there's stuff I bought at the time that took a dip, but when you bought something in like 2007 and you overpaid, now it's 2020 and you're like, I'm a genius. Like, are
Yeah.
you, or did you just wait? Like, that's like why we always say the best time to collect was last year or the year before that, or like go in the past, because that's just how this works. Okay.
There's one New Leaf for $1,000 in pretty nice shape. Hey, it's exactly the price I said. It's got Echo the Dolphin on it.
That's what I just said. I'm like, I said there's one I think on eBay right now for $1,000. Isn't that what I just?
It is a very nice to have bonus item for me for a console. I'm not super enthusiastic about it, Johnny. So I think I will stick to my long-term goals that I have planned out for myself.
All right. Well, if anybody's interested in a Collection Plus item, that's a good one to get, and I think that's a fine price. Even though it tanked on me, I still would say it's a good buy. All right. Guys, how do you feel about, I've kind of answered this a little bit. So this question comes from Retro Game Trader, and he says, how do you feel about graded games today versus when you first learned about them? How do you feel about the fake value inflation from things like heritage auctions and like games that have high buy it nows on eBay but never sell?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking as to whether or not I agree with something that he asserted there, in that the inflation from the heritage phenomenon, is it like whether or not I consider it fake. And I don't think I do. I think so when I got into this hobby originally, VGA was just coming on the scene, I think, and I looked at that and I went, yeah, that's pretty silly. So I mean, I think it's any less silly now, but I am more interested in it from a value proposition. Like, and there is certainly FOMO from a value proposition, like, oh man, like these are now interesting to me because there's like so much, like such a high dollar value associated with it. I don't think I would be as interested in it or interested at all if in sealed games, if there wasn't such a high value proposition. And like I said, I think like certainly the partnership between WATA and Heritage either helped it very much or caused the sort of boom, but I wouldn't say that those prices are big. Like, I don't know that there's a like fake inflation versus just like, I don't know that I would say just because there is inflation that inflation is fake. Like, I don't know that word stuck in my head and doesn't sit well.
All right.
It sounds like you're done talking, Stefan. We should take a break. Stefan, you should drop and rejoin this call.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We got literally nothing.
Okay.
So, Tower, what about you?
I hear you guys just fine.
Rated Game Station, so I first learned about them. Well, I guess I was never a fan of VGA, and then I thought WATA was cool because WATA was coming at the same market, but from a couple of Nintendo Age members, and Nintendo Age was, my home, at least, I don't know, whenever WATA was announced. Yeah, I was hanging out on Nintendo Age a lot when WATA was announced. I thought it was pretty freaking cool. And then the whole weird investment thing is not something I expected to happen from it. But yeah, I mean, like Dennis and all the WATA people, I think, are legit and cool. So my opinion towards graded games is much better than it was when VGA was the only option. I'm still not thrilled about things like grading complete box games or loose cartridges, especially when, if I am looking for my stupid date code on the flap, and that's not on the Wata box. I have to crack open the Wata case to find it. That's why I think grading complete in box games when we find out about variants is annoying. So I really hope that doesn't become a trend. I don't know what's going on in Heritage, man. There are games like Atari games and Intellivision games that sell for $20 that go for $5,000 or $2,000, and it makes no sense. I don't think they're fake sales. I think they're just people from entirely other universes that do not care and think that a 9.8 Intellivision game, because it's the highest grade you could possibly get, it shouldn't matter what price you pay because it's the highest one. I think that's where they're coming from. I don't think it's fake. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, and like I imagine a lot of those people too are like a little more moneyed than us. So like maybe again, like I've said this, and sometimes it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that $5,000 and $7,000 and $10,000 is not the same amount of money to them as it is to us. You know, like that's another thing to like consider. So what do I think about games that like kind of sit and like the big prices people put on? Sometimes I think that's just to draw attention, you know, and that's fine. And like sometimes people put out, like sometimes get a big thing like that, and there are people who like look for the biggest thing and then like see what other items they have for sale. So sometimes it's bad marketing. So, you know, whatever. I don't care about that stuff. Again, the Heritage Auction, I don't know, some of that stuff is fake. I will definitely say there has been fake inflation put into the market by shitty individuals. This has happened not just in this hobby, but in every hobby. Like I know of high-end collectors who have traded back and forth to skew auction prices. This happened back in the day on Nintendo Age. So it like there
are you telling me that perhaps the Nintendo World Championships that was traded for the $100,000 sports card might have been part of manipulating both of those markets, Johnny?
Oh, could be, yeah.
I don't feel like I can comment on that since I benefited greatly from that situation.
Great trade.
That was a fantastic trade.
So
can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you better now.
Okay.
So, but there's. Like, and this is like before even WATA was a thing. Like people are now talking about how everyone's getting backdoored and like there's like a big phenomenon. There's been going on since 2006. People have been complaining about it, happening to me back then. So like the minute anybody like, it's just that the values have shifted, but the same shitty behaviors of people who are interested in money are always the same. So, like, I'm not surprised by any of that. So, people are going to try and manipulate the market. People are going to try and inflate the market to their own gain. People are going to do shitty backdoor deals for their game. They're always going to do that because they've always been doing that. That's just the way shitty individuals act. And that's why shitty individuals should be called out, shamed, and pointed at so that we can have nice things and hopefully get rid of them. Though you'll never completely do it, or else we would have, I think. How do I feel about graded games? I really am not a fan of VGA because, and there's two different schools of thought here. I don't like people grading games who don't know about games, who don't give a about games. You could say, yes, but that makes them objective. True. I will give you that. There is some objectivity there. But I want someone handling my rare and interesting thing, handling it with the care of people who care about it and also know about it. Right? Mm-hmm. I don't think VGA gives a shit about anything but dollars. And that
I think they give a shit about acrylic. There's some people who care about custom acrylic boxes working at VGA.
Okay. Well, to make money, right?
Yeah.
That's like, I want people who care more than about the money. Like, I want you to care about the thing you were doing. Like, I would rather shop with brands that care about things, that have an identity, rather than are just like soulless beasts, you know, out there to make $1. And that's just the best value. I mean, not to say you shouldn't use those. Like, look, Amazon is a thing. Talking of soulless beasts, Amazon is the thing I buy from frequently, and that's not great. But, you know, I'm okay with a company having an ethos, and I'm okay with them having an understanding and a passion and caring for a thing. Now, people will say, WATA's the devil in the but, you know, I know those people, and so I'm biased, and I don't think ill of them. Have there been things in the market that happen? Have they made mistakes? Sure. Yeah, that happens everywhere. I love when people talk about, like, well, they made like 4 mistakes, and you're like, okay, well, 4 mistakes over how many graded games, or let's say it's even 10. Have they graded over 1,000 games? So what's that percentage-wise? It's pretty low. So like, I like that WADA goes in and, puts care, puts extra notes, does stuff. I hate the difference in the letterings on like seals versus like the game grades. I hate the grading system for games in general. I think it's dumb. I think we should be a consistent basis. I know it comes from
You're the
other
only
things.
person who feels this way.
No, because everyone has adopted a system like from another system that everyone just got on board with and said, okay, that does not mean it was a good idea ever. It just means that was the system that is adopted. It's like people who still fight against the metric system. They're like, oh, but in the U.S. system, like we can, it's easier to divide 12 by 4. So that makes it better than the metric system because you're going to bound to have uneven numbers, less decimals. Like there's a whole world that got a standard, like just making things standard. And that's okay. Like sometimes it can be a little harder. We have calculators. Like I also think, representing things by real numbers, like saying something, oh, well, that's an A+. You're like, why? I think I must have done pretty well then. Well, it's good, but it's no A++. What the fuck does that mean? A+, are you a child? Did you just say A++? Is that double plus good? Is this Orwellian? Like, what the shit is happening here? No, stop it with that. Like, just tell me in raw numbers, 1 through 10.
Johnny,
is it good?
it's because
I'll accept decimal points. Like a 9.8, like, well, but it's better than a 9.8.
What do you want to call it? You want to call it a 9.8/10 instead of a 9.8/A++?
Yes.
So have two numbers to represent a game instead of being able to easily understand one is
same
the
scale.
Exactly.
You guys are maniacs. Nobody wants this.
Why don't people want the same fucking consistent scale that they understand? Also, going down,
if you can't understand this, just go to VGA and then just like only buy 90s because 90 means everything's
that
great.
Is dumb. That is so dumb.
That really is also not true with VGA.
Like, it is so easy to go, the seal is a 9. The cart is a 9. The box is a 7. I understand that. A cumulative score is this, or the total score for this game, and it is not a cumulative average, is this. I understand this. So
you want it to be like a BGS graded trading card.
I want it to be a relatable system of numbers only, not A++s. Okay, like look, this is something I deal with in my job all the time. People are like, okay, well, we rated that a 4. Okay, and out of 5. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. They're like, okay, but this other scale we use is out of 10. Can you convert that? Like, can't you just times it by 2? I'm like, no, because a 4 out of 5 is not the same as an 8 out of 10. It's not the same. You think it's the same, but the sentiment attached to that is completely different. So I believe it is unnecessarily obtuse, and it distracts and obfuscates the whole situation. I don't like it. Like, if you can see how that's different, right? A 4 out of 5 is different than an 8 out of 10, even though mathematically those sound the same.
Right, because 4 out of 5 infers almost perfect, and 8 out of 10 does not.
Right. But mathematically, that's still what? 80%.
Yep.
Johnny, you should get into coin grading, where I think it's on a 67-point scale. You would love it.
That is so fucking stupid. That's worse than our system. Like, just grade it out of 10. Just grade the individual components out of 10 and say which each represents. If one piece of this pie represents a greater total to the overall score, just call it out so I fucking know how it is. But the minute you tell me A++, oh, I think I would like a 9.6A, or I got a 9.4A++, like, what is happening? I don't even know what we're talking about. You have to be indoctrinated into a weird cult to suddenly understand what that language means. And I don't like that. Like, just made it readable. And that's the problem. Like, I want to educate collectors. So when people don't understand this shit, they're going to get screwed when they don't see this stuff. So I don't like those kind of scales. That being said, all that for a very long answer for a very short question, I still don't love graded games because of these problems. I like them more because WADA, I think, cares and puts more information. I like things that have more information present and people who care more about the nuance of games, because collecting games is a fairly nuanced hobby, and we're finding out that there's more and more variance in it, and I like uncovering all that. VGA doesn't give a shit about that. They're just going to tell you if the box is nice. End rant.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
And I can't believe, Stefan, you agree with Johnny on that the letters make sense for the seals, so you can easily differentiate them from a box. It doesn't matter. None of us are like crazy great at game people anyway.
I also just generally hate how much importance is given to a piece of cellophane that isn't technically part of the product. But whatever.
Like,
game's a little weird.
I can't believe you are against this, Tyler. This is like, you should love consistency across the board. And you're like, no, I think saying something is a 9.6 B plus minus is okay.
So there has to be 3 different A's, because you're sending your game to WADA to feel good about your game. So if the top tier was A and then the second tier was B, then there'd be a load of B games out there. But everyone wants an A game, so you can have an A game, but you can also have the A plus or A plus plus. That way everyone feels happy, because virtually every decent sealed game will get an A or better. So
you mean there's some sentiment smoothing by obscuring things by not using proper numbers?
Sure.
And you like that?
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah, I think that's why it is the way it is. I think A is probably maybe the close to the minimum level, acceptable level of quality that people would accept. So instead of making that like a C, where like anything below a C is a failure, they make it an A and then make everything above it.
Everybody gets a trophy, Johnny.
Boo! That's bad. That's bad data. That's bad for public viewing. This is why this world is so f***ing dumb and does not know how to read any data or any chart, because we make it unnecessarily hard. It's gatekeeping bullshit. It should be abolished. We should just go to numbers, and then everyone will be clear. And I'm sorry if your feelings get hurt because your seal is a B or an 8. Sorry. Who cares? That's what you got. Like, overall, it'll all smooth out, and over time, we'll see. Like, just use 8.8, 8.7, 8.9. Oh, 9, 9.1, 9.2. There's plenty of room within the number scale on which to assign these grades. And the minute you can't assign a number grade to it, then there's a problem, right? And that's like what we have in coins, like when we talk about grade slippage, where like people will, oh, they were harder graders back then, so now we send it back in. Like that, like all that kind of shit is real.
No, you don't send it back in. You send it to the grading company, where they'll grade your grade and tell you if it was actually accurate. Which are real things.
Yeah, I know. And it's fucking backwards and stupid.
Yes.
So, it's as dumb as when I was reading, there was a post about a guy who has his sculptor's cut, and it's got a Blockbuster seal on it. And people are like, you should keep that seal on it. That's like, I know it was sealed by Blockbuster, but because it was a rental game, that's a legit seal. No, that's stupid. Okay. No, absolutely not. That's not a legit seal. Also, those kind of seals, those like airless cellophane seals, cause like the plastic will contract and crush the game. So don't, if you want to keep the box in a nice condition. Take that shitty seal off of it. It's fake.
I mean,
fake.
For something like Sculptor's Cut, I don't know what the weird market for high-end Sculptor's Cut is. He could probably find one person on Earth who would have value for that seal, even though it's a shitty fake Blockbuster seal.
But there are already people like, yo, you should leave it on. You should definitely leave that on. I'm like, no, but like, don't you know, like, haven't you seen some of those boxes, like when they've been left in the heat, what happens to the plastic and you see the whole box like start to curl up? That's all PC
games. Like, PC games are big empty boxes, and a lot of them are shrunk wrapped, so they all just get demolished when you keep them sealed.
Yep, like, because they didn't put the air holes in. I don't know who discovered that. You need to either put that ribbing in there or have that flap that allowed air to pass through. But the minute they realized, oh, if I actually make this thing airtight, that's bad. Anyways, that's all the questions. Hey, guys, thanks so much for sending questions, because, boy, we didn't have an episode or an idea this week. And you bailed us out big time. No,
how long is this episode? Oh, my God, we're making another
2 hours and 43 minutes?
This is not the norm, guys.
No. Mailbags are always long, and that's kind of also why I wanted to just make like a couple of questions part of the show each week, maybe, so we don't have like a 3-hour mail episode. Because people also in mail episodes, they don't know what they're going to get. There's a lot of good content here, but I can't explain that to people. You will have to in the pre-show, Tyler. Have to tell them how much cool stuff is talked about.
No, you do that, Johnny. I don't want to do that. I already have to edit this damn thing.
Tyler, but I have a baby.
Oh my God. That was your personal choice.
Actually, Tyler, I don't like. I mean, technically, it was the physical act of that makes a baby was 100% my choice, but the ending consequences, I don't know if that was my choice because I was told by medical professionals it was never happening. But it's a choice I'd make every single day, especially like I can say that and it feels good, even though I had shit on my hand like 4 times today because he's got a diaper rash and was fighting me. That's how much I love that kid. Oh, why? You can't even get a dog yet.
Yes. No, I'm never having children and I hate poop. So that's a great combination in my opinion.
Yeah. There's like, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but he's very fair skinned. So if you have a very fair skin, that means when you have like, weird that your poop has a bunch of waste and stuff that your body doesn't want in it. And if it hits the skin at all, that it can, have negative consequence. And because he's got little baby veal skin, it like anytime he poops, he just instantly gets a rash. If we don't get it immediately, like basically wiping it as it comes out, then he'll get a diaper rash. And the more fair skinned you are, the worse it is.
Great. I didn't know that. And I'm sure all of our listeners wanted to know that. So.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have kids and they're either like, wow, I'm glad my baby isn't the palest, Snow Whiteiest looking baby ever like mine. Or they have a fair
this is
skin
super
baby,
relatable.
And they're like, yeah, I've lived that life. Like if you've ever had a baby, and Stefan can relate, who has a diaper rash and they're fighting you to change their diaper, you've gotten shit on your hands. And you've had to wipe it off of their hands and their feet. And you're just like, fuck, why? Stop. Why? Just be still for a second. It'll be over so much quicker. Yeah, that's, but that's not how it goes. My baby is a fighter.
So he could probably do more pull-ups than we could.
Oh,
that's right.
Dude, he is so lean and thin. He does he does pull-ups.
Piper like carries around like these big like 24 packs of soda just like because she thinks it's fun. That kid is jacked.
Yeah, he can climb me. If I like won't pick him up, he starts to ascend my body. Like all of my shirts are all stretched out because he's just like grabbing handfuls and pulling himself up. You're just like, what are you doing? I'm not a rope in a gym. Stop climbing me. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, that's a bunch of baby talk. Guys, let's move on to the second part of the show where we talk about if we're playing anything and if we bought anything. Stefan, I think you already said what you bought, or maybe that was just in the pre-show. So you don't get to talk yet because we're going to talk to Tyler first.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, well, Stefan's just going to be the anchor at the end that demolishes us, huh?
Yeah. Yep. That's what people ask, like, why don't you know who won collecting? Because you're never winning collecting when someone buys a one of one anything. Okay. So just like, oh, cool. You got a nice Genesis game. Well, I got this one of one art piece. You're like, well, never mind. I don't even know why I talked. So, Tyler, what'd you buy?
What has it been? It's been at least 2 weeks since we did this, right?
Yep.
I've got a lot of cool stuff. I will cut it down to some highlights. Here, I'll mention something bougie gatekeeper Tyler normally wouldn't mention, and he would just hold in his hands and be like, I'm actually better than everyone. I got a big lot of Famicom games, including sealed Famicom disc games from Japan. I got a sealed Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Metroid, Castlevania, and some other less exciting stuff.
Did you get me any?
I didn't get you any. I don't know. There's like a bunch of sealed Famicom disc stuff, but I don't know if there's people who just have like cases of it. This is like way cheaper than NES games, just to be clear to everyone. I didn't like break my house getting all this very fancy sounding stuff. But no, I didn't get you any. Go on a proxy site and get your own damn Famicom disc games. the true first prints, Johnny. And they're sticker
They're
sealed,
not.
and apparently having a sticker seal instead of a shrink wrap seal is cooler.
They're not. They are only first print to that system, not first print for the NES.
Well, okay, they're the first appearance of the character, period.
Probably not. Probably there's an art piece where it's true first.
No, now you're getting into Stefan logic where it's like the first time Shigeru Miyamoto had the concept of Zelda, you have to take that moment in history and put it on your shelf.
Yeah.
Well, and I had Miyamoto sign that moment in history for me, and I actually have it here framed just back from Michael's.
Yep. Well, remember, put that gem on your shelf to better yourself.
Yes, exactly. Besides Japanese stuff that no one cares about, I did get a Super Bomberman party pack.
You did it!
In pretty nice shape. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. And this ties into the last question we got. How do you feel about people just leaving overpriced garbage buy it nows up on eBay for years? I love it. Never take them down. Oh my God. If you have an overpriced buy it now, not only does it make the game look more common, but if you have like a 7 out of 10 condition thing that's just like way overpriced, people sometimes see that and they try to price theirs like way lower, and they'll have like a 9.5 out of 10 that they'll completely misprice because they see your stupid buy it now.
Yeah,
never saw that. Honestly,
way to establish fake comparables.
Yes. This one, I got probably a slight deal on it. It wasn't like crazy, but it was in too nice shape for what it was, what he listed it at. And then the most exciting thing, my Famicom stuff's the most exciting. I love that Famicom stuff. I got first print of Monkey Island 1, the EGA 5 1/4 disc version.
You did it.
Yeah,
cool.
I've been looking for that all year. It comes up sometimes, but not often. There's a lot of Monkey Islands out there. Go get the 5 1/4 inch EGA one. None of those bullshit versions, and certainly not the Amiga one, which for some reason is super common.
And definitely not that shitty limited run game one.
Oh, right. I forgot that this is like topical to what came out. Like, God, if you spent like $100 on the stupid Sega CD reprint of Monkey Island, what are you doing? Go buy a real copy of Monkey Island. It's a sweet game. The Sega CD Collector's Edition Monkey Island. What are you people doing? What are you doing? Anyway, I'm really excited. I'm super happy with all that stuff I got.
Did you play anything? Briefly, did you play anything?
I can't even think of that I played anything. Maybe like Modern Warfare. I played a couple of rounds with my friends.
All right. Stefan, do you want to go or shall I?
Sure, I'll go. So I didn't technically buy much.
Shut up, you fucking ass. Why do Tyler, cut it. We're over. This episode's over.
No, Johnny, you go, and then we'll just direct people to Stefan's hour-long Instagram unboxing video.
Just, why are you the worst? Technically, I didn't buy anything.
We're not e-beggars, everybody. We are not e-beggars. We are not asking you to send us free stuff. Stop sending Stefan free stuff.
That's not how that worked at all.
No, don't you understand? If you give me things, I give you things like clout and recognition.
Not how that happened.
Oh, what can I do for you?
You're making it sound like a casting couch.
It was.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, yeah? Prove it.
Yeah.
Prove that it wasn't.
So anyway, I've talked a lot about how difficult it is to find Japanese art for Nintendo Power, to the point that I essentially had given up on it. But I did get in contact with one of the Japanese artists through levels and levels and levels of networking, and said that they were going to send me a piece. And if Tyler had mentioned my Instagram video, it's up there. But they said they were going to send me I posted about the Dragon Warrior map, which is basically just the photographed and composited original of the map that they then made. And so this artist was going to send me that, which was amazing. And then she had said in a note to me that she, threw in some surprises, and to my genuine surprise, that ended up being quite a bit of art from various Japanese artists. So I am feeling very blessed right now that my formerly US only collection of Nintendo Power art now has a significant number of Japanese pieces in it. And that's pretty much all that I've been paying attention to since last podcast.
Did you just say blessed? Like, did you unironically
Blessed.
say
Hashtag blessed.
Hashtag
God,
blessed. Yep.
shut up. You are so disgusting.
Ladies
Black.
and gentlemen, I think this is the first appearance of the Lord on this show.
Oh, I'm sure I've said that. I say that I'm blessed to be in the position that I'm in, that kind of thing, all the time. I use that a lot.
Fortunate. Blessed. Like, I take exception, like, maybe I'm too literal on the definition of blessed as it
Yeah, I don't put any religious connotation
like,
to it.
oh, really? Blessed? Like, you were that interesting to a...
Are you a middle-aged mom on a Facebook group?
Yeah,
Stephen?
seriously. Yeah, like, what time is it? Is it wine 30? Rose all the way. Oh, shut up.
Hashtag blessed.
Show me your golden doodle.
I don't put any religious connotation to that at all.
Ugh. Gross.
I'll hype
Gross.
Stefan's stuff. I only watched some
It's
of it
awesome.
because his thing was too
is
long.
awesome.
He got like Howard and Nestor comics, like original art from that. But the coolest thing is if you have the Zelda tips and tricks guide, I guess.
Oh,
it's
I'm
called.
also salty about this moment. Go
The
on, Tyler.
last page of it probably has the best picture of Link from the Legend of Zelda 1 era. It's Link holding all the items, walking at the viewer, and he looks like a total badass, which he doesn't always look. He looks usually pretty cartoony and like the
except
Zelda
he's
Man
wearing
and
like a
stuff
baby
this.
doll dress, which is a little weird.
Okay, yeah, but he got
with
the
no
cell
leggings.
from that piece of art, and it's f***ing cool.
It's awesome. It's super awesome.
It is super
But
awesome. It's cooler
so
than the Dragon Warrior map.
No.
I don't
God,
like Dragon
love
Warrior
Zelda
as much as I
and
like
Dragon
Zelda,
Warrior.
So. All right.
God, I love both of them. That's hard for me to choose. No, so I'm salty about this moment only because last night in our little group chat, Tyler, Stefan sends a message and he's like, "Hey, Teej, you know where this piece of art is from?" And I'm just like, what about Johnny? It's like one of my favorite series. And like, I talk about how good Zelda 1 is and like how much time I put in that game, how I've literally candle burned every bush in both versions of the game. No, not asking me, huh? Someone who like combed over all the Nintendo powers and knew exactly what it was immediately. You just asked how.
Honestly,
you didn't even ask a general question. You were just like, "No, Johnny, he definitely doesn't know this shit about one of his favorite games."
The only reason why I think about Tyler when I think about Zelda is how much he like pines over Ocarina. That's
but how old? Like, maybe you didn't know, like, I guess you didn't know when it was from, but that was like clearly older than Ocarina art. I'm like, you're asking the child on this podcast?
I beat Legend of Zelda for the first time in 2009. I am not who you should be asking about original Zelda stuff.
He did. Yes, he did know, but I also knew. And that's why I was salty. I was like, that's why I didn't even answer. I'm like,
I'm sorry.
I'm like, I'm not even answering this question. F it, he can keep looking. I was shitty about it. I was just like, why just make it a general question, dick? I'm like, why was I excluded from this? Why don't you trust me? No, I was also like, holy shit, he got that fucking tips and tricks art. I was generally like, holy shit, that is pretty amazing. Like, I was pretty much like, holy shit, he got the Dragon Warrior map. That was like ridiculous. And you're like, I was asking about it, you tried to tell me where I was. I'm like, I fucking know where it's from, Stefan, shut up. Like, I told them, but I'm a Dragon Warrior hipster. Like, I had Dragon Warrior before Nintendo Power gave it out to people. So I'm always like, no, like as a kid, I remember being annoyed with people who were like, I don't get Dragon Warrior. I got it from my Nintendo Power. And I was like, you fucking heathen ass. You don't deserve this game. Get out of here. Get out of my role-playing genre. I was like really angry about that as a kid, actually. That was a thing that genuinely bothered me. That like all these kids got Dragon Warrior and they were just like, let's go play Mario. I don't know why I was like this weird.
And that's the whole reason they had to give it away for free, because no one wanted to play RPGs. So Nintendo's like, maybe if we trick them into playing it, they'll like the RPGs.
But, like I was totally like, it's like when you like an indie band and you're like, oh, I love them, like, and you feel like some weird ownership, which you definitely don't actually have. They're like, well, and everyone's like, oh, I got it too, and you're like, oh, but this was the special thing I had. I felt like I didn't know what that was, but as a small child, I felt it for the first time. Like I can ever recognize that feeling was with Dragon Warrior. So yeah, when Stefan was like, let me tell you where the art is from, I felt that moment again. I was like, shut the fuck up. Nintendo Power.
There was some question you had about the map when we first started talking about it.
Well,
That's
it's just because the way it was rendered. I wasn't sure if it was a rendering because, like when it was, Famicom disc, there was things that were changed between the Famicom version, disc version, and what actually was released in America. So, like some of the shores and stuff, some of the bordering. So I wasn't sure if because you just said I got the map for Dragon Warrior and I couldn't see the picture very well because it's big. I'm like, I don't know if you were saying this is like the in-game map because there's a rendered version of the in-game map, or if you were like that they used like when they're creating the game, if they had a hand-drawn one of that, or if it was like the actual Nintendo Power map. I did not know, or the guide map. So there's a couple of versions. So I wasn't sure which one you were referring to. I was excited either way, though.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep. So, yeah, pretty exciting. So, Stefan, you got a ton of good stuff. And as as I was being to you, you did get a bunch of awesome pieces. The Dragon Warrior / Dragon Quest map alone is like stupid that you have that. And then getting the tips and tricks link, like, and Tyler's right. And like one of his coolest poses is also like kind of unbelievable and stupid, which is why we never do Who Won Collecting anymore, because how the fuck do you beat that? That's like so dumb. That's so dumb. Yeah. Anyways, good stuff. What I'll tell very briefly what I bought. Some Goosebumps books. Yeah. Getting into those Goosebumps books for my wife. Of course, I'm out there buying like the weird variants of Goosebumps books because I couldn't just buy the regular Goosebumps books.
It's got to be entertaining for you too, right? I mean,
like my brain just goes at things that way, so I don't know if it's entertaining for me, but I like when she likes to collect things, and I like that I can help her and like make lists and stuff for her. I like that. I like that we're doing like that I can help her do something. So I like that aspect of it because there's some versions that come with like stickers in them and some that come with stickers and a bookmark and cards. And then there's other versions, multiple first prints, like this is a first print and this is a first print. This one comes with 2 holographic stickers and this one comes with a bookmark and 2 cards in it. Why are they both a first print? And they like one has a weird ISBN number on the back and like a weird barcode. So you're like, oh, I bet this is a Scholastic version. And anyways, my brain tries to figure out collecting because that's what I do. So I enjoy that part of it. So Goosebumps books. I did buy a Marvel Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage QVC exclusive collector's item. That's what I did buy that, even though I already have one. It is still sealed. But it is one of those bad seals that curls the box. And also, this box has a lot of crushing damage. It actually has more than the pictures revealed. So that was kind of sad.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so the seal's also
it was still
like
a solid price, though. Like, I said, it was a good price for a CIB one, and you got it sealed. So
yes, and I didn't feel bad about it because I did the thing like you. I'm like, well, I've got one. I guess I could switch it if I ever needed it. But now I'm like, now I have both, and I never have to think about that again.
Oh, that's what you're planning on doing with it? So you could technically have the SNES version in both of those boxes because you don't know which one's in the sealed one.
Actually,
you'll just psychologically think I could swap the SNES one if I had to.
No, I used to do that. Like when I had one, I'm like, I could swap whatever and like count it. Like if I needed, like, do you have this for it? Yeah, I have this. I could like swap back and forth because there's no, like having the box and all the accoutrements are like, what is the thing? The game in it is not what defines the QVC pack to me because it could be either one.
I guess, yeah, right? It is a pretty unique case.
Yeah. So, the uniqueness comes from the outer box and everything, not really from which game version is. Like the only difference is which side it is on. So I think I've got the Genesis version because I can feel the book slide, and the Genesis version, the book is usually on the right. But that's usually, not always, not 100% of cases. So I think the Genesis version is in there. I'm not 100%. I would have to open the box to look at it, and the seal is so shitty, I am tempted to.
Do it.
So I might.
Then send the game to Wada because the game is probably going to be worth more one day than what you paid for the whole thing.
Yeah, like, see, kind of like in that case, like, because there's so much crushing on the box, like, I'm worried that if it's a Super Nintendo one, that the game would be crushed inside a little bit. It would have damage.
Oh, that would ruin everything. Then he would want to keep it sealed. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Got to X-ray.
Yeah, so then there's the Genesis one, like, probably isn't damaged because it's a Genesis case, right?
Right.
So, especially the side that a lot of the damage is on would be, like, I'm actually looking at the box now, like, where the most damage is not where the game would be. But the box is, like, kind of wavy and stuff, too. It's not a beautiful specimen of a box.
That makes me sad because it looked really good in the picture.
Yeah,
It
like,
did not look
pretty
good in the pictures.
No,
I
it
would have
looked-
bought it if it looked good in the pictures. Because I kind of want one, but it's like the new Leaf cart where it's like, this is not going to help me achieve my collecting goals.
And then, the funny thing that happened that I told you guys about, where I was bidding on a thing and then sneezed in the last 2 seconds.
Johnny put in his biggest bid ever because he doesn't
Yeah.
want to use an auction sniper like everyone else on the planet does.
Yeah, I'm an old man. I like to do it manually. I like the thrill. Stefan's with me on this. He does it too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm there.
Yeah.
The only time I'll actually ever use this sniper is when I know I'm going to be engaged otherwise, like
Oh yeah,
in an unavoidable sense.
yeah, like if I'm going to the movies or I'm going to be out or something, I'll do it. But
yeah, if I'm on a plane or something, then yes, I'm going to use this sniper.
yeah, but if I'm like home, I like to do it myself.
You guys must bid on much fewer items than I bid on.
That is true.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so it was a Hot Toys Star Wars Scout Trooper, the speeder bike with speeder bike. That's the thing I accidentally won because I'm kind of like sick of games, so I'm like, what should I take my expendable income and throw it at? We like Stefan, you've seen in the house, like I have the Star Wars shelves. I like to buy my little action figures, my dolls. So I got a Princess Leia with Wicket, who's an Ewok. And I was like, it would be cool to have this biker scout. I think I'll bid this amount of money, which was like $340. Instead, I sneezed and bid $3,402. So I won that auction.
So did you end up overpaying?
No, I like still got like I think a pretty good price. Like it's like a loose figure. It doesn't come with its box. The speeder bike had like a little bit of damage, so I'm not getting like a great deal on this, but I think I'm paying like fair value. Like a lot of the sideshow stuff, like having all the extra little hands and all that, like would be like I bought a loose copy instead of a complete in box, but I don't care because it's going on a shelf displayed. I'm not displaying the boxes, so I didn't care about that. So the deal was still pretty solid, I think.
I'm imagining an alternate world where you paid $3,000 for this statue, and then there's some Star Wars or figure collecting forum like, this is ruining the hobby. People are overpaying for speeder bikes now. What is this $3,000 sale about?
Yeah,
just like a $2,000 Castlevania too.
I hope that is happening. Like those forums are so much different. Like the information is so much shadier, and like the way I don't understand, like there's fakes in this community too. I'm not like a super knowledgeable collector. I'm just a guy who likes Star Wars figures. So I'm probably the dummy out there. I'm just like, I bought this one. I didn't know I could buy it cheaper. I got him though. I'm gonna put him next to my Princess Leia. Look cool and Wicket. I got an indoor scene. It's like, I play with toys now exactly the same way I played with toys as a child. So I'll give you some insight into how I was. I loved my Star Wars figures, but I didn't play, like people like, and then he jumped on him and then he attacked him and like bang figures together. Like I always see people like grab two figures and then like smash them together. I'm always like, who the hell played like that? And I guess it was regular kids. Cause I definitely didn't. What I did with all of my figures and why I wanted multiples of like stormtroopers and stuff is I just set up movie scenes. I'm just like, and here's a scene. Okay. Here is Darth Vader coming down the little gangway. Okay. Here's some stormtroopers. They're at attention. Okay. Their guns are like this. Okay. They all look the same. Cool. I played. Like it takes me, I'm like, now I'll set up a new scene. Okay, over here. Okay, here's Luke on a speeder bike and he's crashed. Okay, so there's a speeder bike in pieces and he's got his lightsaber out and here comes the biker scout trooper on his and Luke's going to fight him. Okay, yeah, it's set up. Now I'll put a little Ewok over here. Yeah, okay, perfect. Set it up. That's how I played. That's
kind of like a person who plays with Legos just by following the instructions. They're just like, okay, I'm going to build this thing and there it is. Don't touch it. It's perfect now. I don't want to play with these anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of how I played with Legos too. I mean, I definitely built my own houses and stuff. Like I was a kid who loved to build houses. I don't like Lego, like new Lego sets where it's just like part of a thing. You're just like, this is like basically you're doing it for the minifigures, and it sets up like I guess this brick wall represents the room. I like a set to look like a thing because I want to build something that looks like a thing.
Are we talking about
itself.
how you buy like a ship or a castle and it's only the front part and the back is just open and it's
no?
bullshit,
I'm okay.
Johnny?
I'm okay with that.
No, I hate that.
Look, I don't love it. I said I'm okay with it. I'm okay because the front is a displayable piece. You're like, I did it. Like with a lot of the Harry Potter sets, what I will do is I'll buy 2 of them and then I'll build the back half.
All right. Johnny, it is 4:04 a.m.
No, let's keep talking about how let's keep talking about how I buy
Can
toys.
I go to bed?
No, we're gonna. Stefan, tell us more about your art because we only got to talk about 2 pieces.
Yeah, I know this is probably Johnny, I got the year for you. We only brought up like 3 things.
I got 83 new pieces, so let's just go through them one by one.
Yeah, can you?
Alphabetically.
Please. Oh, you said the magic words alphabetically.
That's right.
Well, I mean, like alphabet, like is each piece have a letter or something that you've designated it to? Is there any like A++s or?
Well, no, I could either go by issue number, or I could go by the game, or I could go by the artist.
I would prefer by
there's
game.
like 3 different ways to alphabetize.
Okay, so I would like you to go by game title, and then tell me which issue it was in.
Well, the first one might actually be Liberty or Death.
Oh my God, no one cares about Liberty or Death, especially a Japanese interpretation of Liberty or Death. I know you didn't get any Ninja Gaiden stuff because the second you got it, you would have been like, Tyler, check this out.
I absolutely. If I ever do get any Ninja Gaiden original art, I will be all over you with that.
I know.
Yeah, but did you see, like, Stefan earlier was talking about how gross Tyler is, but Stefan is like, I get to lord this thing I know you would love, and I'll never let you have it.
That's true.
What?
You would never be able to buy it from me.
See how shitty that is? He's talking about what a monster Tyler is. And
He wouldn't be lording it over me. So what Stefan could do is instead he could
Tyler,
get the
shut
Ninja
up.
Gaiden art and then never tell me about it and then just be like, I got the Ninja Gaiden art. I'm the fucking coolest collector.
Tyler's trying to make you sound less like a monster.
Yeah,
Help me help
which is
you.
weird because I don't understand that.
Now you just sound awful again.
No, we got to cut this whole episode, I think.
Yep.
All right, we'll try again
after
next week.
after 3 hours.
Good night, everybody.
All right, that's it for the episode. I think you know where to find us all on social media. Bye. There.
Wow, you really did cut it.
Yeah, wow. I stopped recording. I'm going to bed.
All right. Thanks, guys.